Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I am genuinely curious about what the reaction of everybody is going to be to the news yesterday that I thought that was glossed over a little bit. Rudy Gobert became a Hall of Famer yesterday. You win 4 of those things, you get in the Hall of Fame.
No question. Yep.
You say no question, and I'm like, Rudy Gobert, Hall of Famer. I mean, I know that
it's a different Hall of Fame.
I know it's a
Make
different
an exemption just this one time because nobody likes him. Has so many things working against him. He started COVID. He's French.
We made the argument on the show yesterday that the Timberwolves are better off without him.
He's going to end up in the Hall of Fame, and I don't care how diminished the Basketball Hall of Fame is. I still am jarred.
What's worse, betting on your own sport or ruining everybody's lives for 2.5 years?
Or missing a game because you had a kid.
It's up there.
Yep.
He's no Brandon Carlo.
And as an added bonus, rare is the Hall of Famer that very often during games as the sport evolves just gets taken off of the court for long stretches of time. That usually doesn't happen to the Hall of Famers at the height of their powers. But as Stugat said while moaning over headsets that were on the floor and with a bad back that made it very difficult to get up, what a night on the ice.
It was magical, Dano.
This sport. 2 OTs, 2 games. They gave 3 OTs, actually.
Yes.
Oh.
2 in the Rangers game.
More OTs and games.
How many people out there were confused when a tied overtime Rangers game all of a sudden with 30 seconds left as everyone is very excited, the broadcast goes to another pregame show?
Oops.
How many of you?
Stars game. It was the Stars.
It went to the Stars game. There was about maybe a minute or so left in regulation in the Rangers game, and they left the Rangers game to go to the Stars game. And I thought the Ranger game went to ESPNU, so I went to ESPNU, and the Stars game was there as well.
Which would have been a curious decision with 30 seconds left on the running clock.
Yes.
I'm gonna power through this one. No, fine. So 30 seconds left on a running clock. Me and about 15 of my closest hosers, we go to a local watering hole, and we are just maniacs about this sport. And
Billy, why are you making that face?
Your closest what?
Hosers.
Is that a hockey thing?
It's a Canadian phrase.
Yeah, it's not very flattering, but whatever. We're puckheads. So we go to our favorite hockey bar. It's about 15 of us, and I'm telling you, these fellas are on a rampage.
I need to stop everything that's happening here because whatever you think Mike Ryan is with soccer insanity, with basketball insanity, and with University of Miami insanity, hockey Mike Ryan is 15 people in a bar yelling at a television when the game is tied with 30 seconds left and the television is going to another broadcast.
Hosers, just a hostile takeover of a bar. People using hockey gloves as koozies. It was, it was a movie. But, and we just like joy. We want people to find their joy. We want points. We want goals. We like the overs. We like the player props. Yeah, maybe a little side action on the Carolina Hurricanes. That's a tough L. But generally, we just want a good game. And we were being treated to an amazing game, courtesy of the New York Rangers and Carolina Hurricanes. And with 30 seconds left on a running clock and the game in the balance, they decided to go to the pregame coverage. A big mess up over by ESPN production. However, we also had the over in Dallas, so we weren't necessarily super mad about it. We were just confused.
Mike, I will tell you this. The Rangers had no business winning that game last night. Carolina dominated play. They did, but that's what hockey's all about.
Yep.
You just need one.
And that series ain't over. Series ain't over. One bit.
I want to go back to the hosers for a second. It's a Canadian phrase. Was the Smothers Brothers? I think are the ones who introduced me to it as a Canadian insult.
Are they on
I
TikTok?
think. I don't know whether they invented it or
Smothers
not.
Brothers.
That's funny.
Wikipedia says Rick Moranis is the one on SCTV who popularized it. But it means and I will get this specific for you, a foolish or uncultivated person.
Yeah. No, that checks.
I mean, that's hockey fans.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
That's hockey fans in a bar. Wait a minute. I shouldn't say it's all hockey fans. It's hockey fans who drink beer from a koozie 15 deep in a bar. That's hoser.
The koozie was a hockey glove. Yeah. It's an important detail. You just hand the hockey glove around. Yeah. Take a swig. Oh, man, what a night. What a night. And then we had another game after that Rangers-Carolina game. And I'm very, very glad to see the nation is actually supporting this. This sport is truly growing, and it shows the power of ESPN. This sport barely survived the 2 lockouts and being stuck on Versus and not getting mainstream attention. For it to finally get mainstream attention, Pat McAfee's been such a great ally for the sport. They're getting close to NBA playoff numbers.
The ratings are very good, and Juju, in basketball, one of the things basketball suffers from that hockey doesn't because of where offense has gone is the games last night aren't interesting. You don't have to watch these 20 and 30-point games, and I'm really genuinely curious because I don't remember the Warriors doing what the Celtics are doing, where they just stack throughout the game. And I know they're playing against Cleveland and Miami and their lower seeds, but they've been doing it all season where they just go, they're up 9 now, they're up 18, they're up 27, they're up 35, and the game's never going to get close. They're going to just keep grinding your face into the ground, and it makes the games uninteresting. They're not the hockey games. You can tune out of both of those games last night, and you didn't miss anything. What the Sixers and the Knicks gave us and what the Knicks and the Pacers gave us, that's a rarity. Like even the Minnesota-Denver games aren't close. Like we're surprised by the results, but we're looking at it and it's not dramatic games.
The Celtics are overwhelming. They've had 20-point leads in half of their games this year. Like that's crazy. Think about that.
We've been sounding the klaxon for what's going on with this sport. I genuinely think, not unlike baseball, analytics has kind of gamed the system and crack the game in ways that aren't necessarily pleasing to viewers. And look, we got a deep Knicks playoff run here, and generally the NBA playoffs are down. Knicks games are doing well, but they're buoyed by this Knicks run, and the arrow's not pointing up. It's not flat. It's pointing down. And sports everywhere are up.
Well, but you say pointing down, and these TV rights, Stugotz, and we'll talk about this with David Sampson later. There was a miscalculation by the folks at TNT not understanding what's happening in the competitive streaming space. And so when I think it was Zaslav, the CEO of CNN, of all of it actually.
Of Max.
Of the whole thing. He ends up saying that they're not interested in renew, or they're not sure they're going to renew basketball. And as soon as that happens, Amazon's going to get games. Like there is simply no way that Amazon will not get games.
Well, Amazon, their offer kind of leaked out yesterday. They're looking at $1.8 billion per season over 11 years. I mean, that's crazy.
But it's interesting what Mike Ryan is saying here, though, because I, too, was under the impression that for a lot of different reasons, I could have said but pre-streaming, I could have made the argument, basketball's going to a dangerous place. But because all that matters here isn't actually ratings. It's not. It's not even how many people you have in your arenas. It's just, can you get the TV money? The TV money is the rocket fuel for the entirety of the business, and nothing else matters. And the thing that I simply had not allowed for, Stugotz, and I don't think a lot of people saw this coming, because it is an evolution that I would say that's over the last 5 or 6 years. I don't know that we've had a lot of visionaries. Basketball's going to get bailed out. The business of basketball is going to get bailed out because they have legitimate problems, but you don't have legitimate problems if you've got a sugar daddy that's giving you billions and billions of dollars, and now there's a bidding war for these rights. Everybody seems to want them, even though It ain't hockey, man. The basketball playoffs, what it is so far, you can be interested in the games. You can have passion about the games, but the way the games are going aren't luring you in. And when you're in the close ones and all you're doing is yelling about the referees and the 2-minute report and the refs are deciding the end of the game instead of the players, like you have an entertainment problem.
Yes, 100%. But while they're going through this entertainment problem, like you said, the timing couldn't be better because you have streaming services paying a premium for the association with the NBA. They're not necessarily paying for what the product is now, the ratings they're driving now. They want to be in the game. They want to be up. There it is.
Yeah.
They want to be legitimized by having this partnership. You automatically, my understanding is that Turner can match the deal, but these are getting to crazy prices, and you genuinely
I'm not certain
have to,
Turner would want to match that deal.
Yeah, because it's getting to an insane
ridiculous,
place. But
yes.
if you're Amazon, you already have the NFL. You want to legitimize yourself as a destination that sports fans have to go to. If you want to follow sports, you need Amazon Prime. You can just microwave a sports juggernaut by not just acquiring the NBA, but what happens to Turner Studio shows that the league loves? What happens to all of that if there is no sport to cover? Well, if I'm Amazon, I'd say everybody in Atlanta, you stay right there. We go from Turner to Amazon. We're immediately a legitimate entity. We have shoulder programming already there. I mean, the studio coverage is almost more popular than the sports sometimes.
In other streaming news, Boomer Esiason said on WFAN this morning that he would not be surprised, and we should not be surprised, if the NFL sells its Christmas games to Netflix.
I think, correct me if I'm incorrect on this.
That's Boomer, Dan.
It's a big story, Dan.
The
WFAT. I mean.
The WNBA tip-off is going to be on Disney Plus, correct? So
That's right.
So if you want to see Caitlin Clark's first game, you're not going to be able to see that on regular television. You're going to have to subscribe to that. As on the day, Stugotz, that we find out that the women are now getting chartered flights, that they don't have to do this primitive.
Well, that's nice.
It is nice, but now that you see the economy,
We'll do MLS next.
the economy of this is changing.
Yes.
But tonight, if you want to watch Caitlin Clark, you're either going to get highlights for free or you're going to have to pay for Disney Plus. And Stugotz, I will tell you that Disney had a very good quarterly earnings, overachieved in every single way because of how aggressively Disney is going into streaming as something that can help save the business.
Caitlin Clark's game will also be on ESPN2. So it's Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and ESPN2.
So
it'll be in all of those places.
Okay, so it's not exclusive to Disney
No.
Plus.
Correct.
No.
Okay.
But live sports on Disney Plus is a change.
It is a change, but I don't know why anybody would go there if you don't make them go there by denying them the access on free television.
But I forgive me for not knowing this, but it's a preseason game, right?
No, this will be on May 14th when
okay.
the
Thought you said
season kicks
tonight.
off for her.
But, Dan, I think some people have bailed on cable television, meaning they don't have ESPN2 anymore, so they'll get it on Disney+.
They found a way to get our money. This is ridiculous.
They always do.
I'm a sports fan. I can't not have one of the streaming services now because they're all going to have live sports. I'm going to have to still have cable so I can watch the games that are just exclusive behind that paywall that are integrated inside the app. So not only am I paying for cable, I can't cut the cord, and now I'm just going to every single streaming service. It's insane.
And you also have to watch FBI. I mean,
Can you explain to me, Jeremy, how it is that this is working with Disney Plus? Have they ever had a live sporting event on Disney Plus?
This will be the first non-animated live sporting event on Disney Plus.
Remember the Toy Story game?
Yeah, don't forget the Toy Story game.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
Took a little bit, but
Right.
they found their way.
They didn't cut to the stars.
But fascinating to launch
Slinky
with
the dog,
this.
remember?
Let me go back to something that was said by Mike here about the NBA studio show. You've heard me say it's the greatest sports studio show in the history of sports studio shows. And he said sometimes it's more popular than the games. And it is really interesting to watch these people who are all over 50 years old still dominate even the new technology landscape, because what they've figured out, and this is rare, and it's where one of the many ways they're ahead of the game, because of attention deficit disorder, because sometimes the games aren't enough, because everyone's addicted to social media and needs more and more action, you're basically televising a 4, 5, 6 hour radio show with these guys who like hanging out with each other and have more room to work than any of these other studio shows that are just showing you at every turn very consistently, we're just here to get to the next commercial. We're just here to take you to the next commercial. Here's Stephen A. Smith. Here's Michael Wilbon. Here's to say it in 20 seconds, get out of here. And there's not room for friendship and laughter and bits and Kenny's falling down and Charles is being Charles. They are so far ahead of the game because what they're doing, the games are incidental. Like, they can use the games for content, but you're not there all night with them for 4 and 5 and 6 hours waiting for LeBron to get out of the shower. You're not there for primarily the information, because I don't believe that the way basketball is being covered right now, that's where you're getting the best basketball information.
Yeah,
You're not. You're getting entertainment.
I mean, Shaq explaining today's game, it doesn't really compute with me. But for me, like, Turner's studio coverage, both on the NBA and NHL side, it's replaced what Conan used to be for me. This is my late night talk show. These guys, and it's just a frame. The game is an excuse to get to know these great ensembles. Turner has cracked the code, often imitated, never replicated.
One of the interesting things about it, I think, Stugatz, the high wire act of live television that Netflix is now also trying to get into, because John Mulaney is doing something very strange on Netflix. I told you what was happening this weekend, where you've got Cat Williams basically. Shannon Sharpe now has the most viewed interview in the history of YouTube. It surpassed Joe Rogan's Elon Musk interview. And in doing so, he's given Cat Williams has given Cat Williams an enormous career resurgence as a comedian and a grinder, so much so that he's mentioning Shannon Sharpe in the first 2 sentences of his special, because Cat Williams has never been this. He went on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay and ended up making the internet record for views, because he basically, whether he's nuts or not, he told an awful lot of truth that people do not tell in public spaces.
Is that the clinical term?
That is correct. That's exactly right. And he ends up with a live special on Saturday night. Then you go Tom Brady and the roast on Sunday night. And then you've got all of comedy is in Los Angeles for the Netflix as a joke week. And John Mulaney does a super strange show because he's just got the power to do it as one of the best stand-ups. They've given him a show, and he's making it as weird as possible.
It's the strangest late-night TV show that technically has the structure of your typical late-night show, where he starts with a monologue, but the monologue is just making fun of L.A. The whole thing is called Everybody's in L.A. And so it starts there, but then he brings in a combination of guests that will throw you off given the topic of that night. So one night it was palm trees was the topic he wanted to focus on. So he brought on an expert in that and Jon Stewart. Last night it was helicopters. So he brought on the first helicopter journalist, Zoe Tur, along with Nate Bargatze and Earthquake. And he has conversations with all of these people that make no sense. He's just exploring his
weird
curiosities.
On purpose.
It's weird on purpose and awkward and uncomfortable.
It's late night. You want weird.
It's so strange.
Eric Andre would like a word, though.
Well, totally. But it is so weird the way that he's exploring these curiosities and then with a total non sequitur going into a different question for Bargatze. He'll talk about helicopters and the OJ chase and be like, so, Nate Bargatze, you really like candy? And it just sits there awkwardly, and they toss to strange interviews. It is so uncomfortable knowing that it's live. It's that high wire act that makes it so good.
Coyotes, I think, was one of
that was the first one.
Subjects.
Coyotes.
With Jerry Seinfeld.
Tell me Bron on Roenick.
So helicopter journalists, I was confused at first. So the people that are like the videographers
In the
of
helicopter,
Okay,
yeah.
I was
did you think
confused.
that was?
Well, I was confused that it was a profession. I was like,
John Stossel's just close to you?
No,
Traffic reporters?
There's someone that wrote about helicopters. Like there was a helicopter newsletter in there, and there's people just
a
wrote
weird
about
beat, yeah.
Exactly. I was like, there's more than one person whose job it is to write about helicopters. Like, why is this a thing?
And the show
there a
had this
newsletter?
journalist and then brought on Marsha Clark to speak with the journalist.
What?
It was amazing.
But you now understand what it is to be the first helicopter journalist, correct? You are hovering over the freeway chasing O.J. Simpson.
I mean, videographers, journalists.
Well,
That's a debate for another day.
She was a journalist who told the story that they used to before helicopters because she bought her own helicopter to do this. That was how it started. She bought her own helicopter
To chase the news.
To chase the news in LA because traffic was so bad. And what she said is that they used to impersonate cops or ambulances to get to wherever the crimes were,
That's a
which
heady
is just
play.
admitting to a crime.
That's a crime.
It's a
yeah.
crime. But then they bought a helicopter.
But a heady play, as described by Stugatz. What you put it on the poll.
Got to get the story, Dan. I mean,
Put it on the poll at Levitard Show. Is what you would call a crime to Stugatz a heady play? Because I think that's pretty consistent. I need to.
I've always wanted one of those sirens. You could just reach outside your window, slap on the top of your car, turn it on, and just drive through traffic.
Like a Joe Friday?
Yes.
You could buy one. There's nothing stopping you.
Really?
I want to get to a literal
Sure.
heady play from last night in hockey, but before I do that, I just want to speak for the listeners here, Stugatz, who have written in because yesterday in a take that you have not refurbished, you've got a couple of takes that haven't actually been updated by you in the files. You haven't updated the software, and so
Right.
you blurted yesterday because you have this habit. It's a bit of Tourette's take of yours that horse racing is dead.
Yeah.
But you did that after the Derby had its biggest rating since 1989.
I don't care.
Well, can I get through the numbers on
Yes,
on
sorry.
how you're wrong
Apologies, that
first
was
before
rude.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I know you're going. I know.
I said sorry.
I know you're not going to update the software, Stugatz. I know that you're not going to add any information that's going to change
Sharpen
your
the tools.
your opinion on horse racing is dead. But what you are going to get is the flogging of facts that the Kentucky Derby sold out 160,000 seats, and on top of that, did its biggest number, 17 million, since 1989, at a time when you weren't saying that horse racing is dead. You were not in 1989 when you were.
It was still alive,
When you
yeah.
were on the Hank Goldberg
Yes.
show, and you were talking about horse racing a lot back
had no
then.
choice.
So this number was bigger than any of the numbers in the last 30 years.
But that's misleading because the Kentucky Derby is an event. Like you watch it because it's the Kentucky Derby, not because you care about horse racing.
And that was the 150th running
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
Kentucky
come on.
Derby.
You think that's why? Like normally I would
Well,
skip
that and the
this,
gambling.
but it's
Yeah.
a,
Centennial
it's-
0.5, yeah.
Sports are all up
gambling.
pretty
Let me-
much across the board
I
because of
understand that.
sports gambling.
Right, but let me know how 151,
Mm-hmm.
152, 153, 154, 167. Let me know how those go, you know?
Go to Calder on a Tuesday afternoon. We'll
You
see
watched-
how vibrant horse racing
Challenge
is.
accepted.
Bingo. You watched horse racing because you wanted to see if a horse could win the Triple Crown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a horse has done that recently, so therefore horse racing is dead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know the numbers suggest otherwise.
You were quite
But I don't
literally
care.
beating a dead horse. You're literally beating a dead horse.
No, that's in California.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Horse racing is dead. I know the numbers say otherwise. If that's not where we are in general, arguing facts in
America, folks.
like that's it right there. Like I know what you think, all those facts, but I've got my opinion, and that's gonna win here. You're gonna give me more facts? Okay, I'm gonna stay right where I am.
Now imagine how entertaining it would be if Stugatz were to debate that fact against Marsha Clark.
I think we need to see the Preakness numbers before we can assess whether
Right.
or not horse racing is dead.
Well, I don't think the Derby horse is racing in the Preakness.
Oh, I mean,
To my point.
We're doing
Exactly
load
right.
management in this sport too.
Ridiculous.
Heavens.
Secretariat's rolling over in his grave.
Hey.
Is he dead?
Is he a he?
A couple of funny baseball things I wanted to get to. A couple of days ago, we were talking about closer entrances and Duran in Minnesota, how he comes in to the lights being turned off and everyone waving the lights on their phones. And the Oakland A's have a closer, Stugotz, who throws 104 miles an hour. Okay, Mason Miller is their closer, and he's great. And he said when they asked him, because of everything going on in Oakland, if you're not paying attention, there are nights when they don't seem to have 2,000 people in the ballpark. And he was asked why he doesn't have a big entrance, and his quote was, the lights might not come back on.
That's what we were talking about yesterday. Me and Greg longing for the day that stadium lights went off and it'd take 15 minutes to turn back on.
But the A's might have, the A's might have the electricity cut because they can't, they can't pay for it. The Oakland A's are playing in real life in the major leagues. They're playing out the movie Major League, where they're probably getting into dirty whirlpools because their facilities aren't quite major league.
Cold water in the shower.
I can't wait for the oral history of the Oakland Coliseum, Oakland A's years. But you mentioned Major League, and it might actually be playing out the same way because they're a lot better than people assumed. They're only 4 games back of the division with the expanded wild card. They could actually make summer interesting, and what a cool experience that would be in their final year in that godforsaken stadium. It's exactly like the movie.
I spent all of last season betting for them to lose by more than a run, and it was profitable. It worked.
Have you switched to the Marlins?
I have.
Speaking of the Marlins, last night they were underestimated. Let's go out to some video and some sound from the MLB network here. Yamamoto is opening for the Dodgers. They're sort of laughing at the Marlins, and Yamamoto is capable of shutting anyone down. And here's the analysis as they lead into the game.
Don't take this the wrong way, but we are already a no-hitter alert. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, before he throws a single pitch tonight against the Marlins, we have a no-hitter alert.
Okay.
Enjoy what could be a no-hitter from Yamamoto.
Jazz, swing your first pitch.
Right here on MLB Network for Harold, CY, I'm Greg. We have a no-hitter alert.
Bethancourt, first pitch, swinging. Jazz with a high fly ball. Deep right center field, and the Marlins are on the board first.
First pitch of the game.
Wasting no time.
Didn't we say about the Stars coming out in Hollywood?
We showed them.
8-2 final.
You give up a grand slam in the bottom of the first.
Who won?
First pitch of the game, though, when you put everyone on no-hitter alert?
That's great. That's how you promote a game coming up on your network.
Yep.
But as Stugotz said, while moaning and having difficulty getting up over some headsets that were on the floor, what a night on the ice.
What a night on the ice!
Amazing, man.
Can we talk about a game? Can we break down a game? Because this double
I want
OT
that
game,
heady play.
The heady play, a literal heady play. Jacob Trouba should probably get suspended for this. So there was a lot of moments in this game that felt like a fever dream. You think you're watching the end of an overtime, but then you're sent to Dallas for some godforsaken reason. And then this play that I also thought the TV was broken when I looked up at it because a player was stuck in the glass for a half a beat. So here in this play, you have Jacob Trouba looking to kill Necas, Martin Necas for the Carolina Hurricanes. He extends his elbow. He is looking to decapitate this Carolina Hurricane.
For those of you not watching, he lands like a dart.
Lawn darts straight into the glass, and for a half a beat is stuck in the glass, completely horizontal. He should be suspended for this because he attempted to kill that man.
Parallel to the ice. He is, he's parallel to the ice with his helmet stuck in the glass.
Jacob Trouba has 6 penalties so far in 2 games. 6 penalties, and that one should have been a charging penalty.
He was also the first one up and then skated right off before
Hockey
the guy
player.
that slid onto the floor.
Yeah.
Well, because his knee hit his helmet. That's why Necas going to get
That would have Luka out for months. Jimmy Butler, months.
It spawned a bunch of great memes, but I don't know how you outgoon Matt Rempe in a series because Matt Rempe, I don't know if you're
Can he fight?
Matt Rempe, and we have an image of Matt Rempe, so you can see if you're familiar with this guy's work. He's 6'7". His job is to be a goon, muddy stuff up in front of the net, and use every inch of that 6'7" frame. He also fancies himself an enforcer, but he's a terrible enforcer. He likes to fight all the time, but that face right there, that image, is a good example of how this usually goes for a guy who's 6'7", has all the reach in the world. Bad fighter.
That is a great comedy skit. The guy who goes through an NHL life thinking he's a goon, but he's no good at it.
He's also a rookie. He's done some things this season that has not been good in this league.
The Ranger fans love him, by the way.
He is
yes.
the Rempire State. They love
Rempire State Building.
Yeah,
yes.
They love this dude. He has become an icon.
What a name.
And I'm not really sure. He did score once in the playoffs, and it was unavoidable. Like, he has become a cult hero over there. There's Rempy jerseys everywhere. This guy is an immense star because he's playing in New York.
Tall.
He's just tall.
Yeah.
He's just tall. He likes to fight, but he's not good at it. Short guys are kicking his ass left and right. But, look at that face. How can you not love him?
He's too tall to be hitting people. Every time he hits somebody about 5 inches shorter than he is, he ends up elbowing them in the face.
In all seriousness, though, Trouba's going to get suspended for that, right? Because the rule is intent.
Yeah.
Like, he has his elbow.
He intended to kill him.
That's intent to injure. That is suspendable.
The suspension should be for manslaughter.
But the end result was him getting lawn darted into the glass.
He'd have to be dead. This goes into that whole quacky doctor situation again.
This guy has wingspan, though. It's not height; it's wingspan. Rempy can be winning fights because of wingspan.
He's awful at fighting.
Yeah, and his hair keeps flying back because of the amount of fist that he's getting in the face.
He's got a wingspan, though. I'd tell you that.
Well, when he goes out there to fight, I would not want to fight him because in that sport with wingspan, they tend to pull your jersey up over your head, and they grab the side of you and keep you. He should win these fights with his wingspan.
He is. His whole defense is, I'm going to eat this punch with my face to set up my.
You think you can beat me? Watch my nose eat your fist.
But the thing is, it's not like he's got a great jaw either. His face becomes picadillo every time he gets into a fight. What? I love a good old-fashioned goon.
Oh, that's great.
But you got to be good at it. You can't.
He's good at being tall. Yeah. He's very tall. Yeah. He's 6'7". He's tall. There's no denying he's tall.
Stugotz, can we talk for a second about the Celtics? And instead of celebrating every moment of theirs as they drag people, because they've been a machine the entirety of the season, I believe that the people listening to this think that the only flaw that the Celtics have as a basketball team, and I'm telling you, Stugotz, I don't remember the 72-win Warriors winning specifically this way,
right?
Where the point differential was up here. It was close, but the point differential was up here, and all the games were just stacks of. Occasionally, they play a game in the 130s with Atlanta because they're just fooling around and it's close, but the games are 30 points, 20 points, and it's just consistently they throttle you and then just keep the lead. There's no back and forth.
No.
The Celtics, though, I believe their only flaw in perception is they better not play close ones. They better not be actually tested,
right?
And have at the end of games, it's not everyone gets to score, and this night it's going to be Derek White and Jaylen Brown. When everything gets cleared out, what's going to happen? Oh, it's going to be Tatum, and it's going to be a long jumper. That's what it's going to be when the games get close. Do they have another flaw? Because it is statistically one of the best teams we've ever seen, the way they win games. The difference between them and everyone else in the league.
I think that's the only flaw, like how they'll react. Big spot, close game. What will Tatum do? Tatum wasn't even good last night. The Celtics still won by 25 points. Derek White has been absolutely amazing. But
what a find. What a trade.
Amazing. But you ask yourself, when are they going to have close games? Who are they going to have close games against? And I'm afraid they're not going to have them until the NBA Finals. Like, maybe a close game or two with the Knicks, and that's about it. I mean,
do you guys find interesting the way that Tatum is covered?
I do. I think it's interesting because he's sort of gotten in his young career the opposite treatment of what LeBron got. Both came in with huge expectations, but LeBron was surrounded by nothing in a franchise that was known for nothing.
Okay, but LeBron's expectations
were way higher.
Were younger
no, it's very different.
And doubled.
Well, not much younger. It was 1 year younger.
Way higher.
Well, no,
way
but
higher.
But the expectations were with him since high school.
Yes.
Yeah. He came in as a number 2 overall pick in a draft where did Fultz go number 1?
It was
in that
3.
Draft?
It was
3.
Fultz, Ball, Tatum. But the premise being, he was drafted into a pretty good organization, has played with star after star after star that they've brought in as guards to be number 1 options when he was younger.
Played
Kemba
with
Walker,
Kyrie.
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward was supposed to be someone that they brought in for him. Now Porzingis, Drew Holiday. There's all these guys that have been around this young core. And they've made 1 finals thus far. They'll make another finals this year. But consistently
We'll see.
At the end of games, we've seen they've struggled. And he's the de facto closer. And yet, understandably, because he's a great player, this is not me hating on Jason Tatum. I think he's one of the 5 best players in the league, probably. But it's interesting that he's not really ripped by anybody for not being able to get there, win the championship, when he's been surrounded by great teams for most of his career. Their one hurdle has been the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, where LeBron was facing the end of a Detroit Pistons dynasty, Wade and Shaq, the big 3 in Boston, and yet he was getting ripped for not winning the big one.
It's the way that they fail, too. It's he goes missing or he's not very good. And he puts on the Kobe armband. He does have a road game 7 win, and people attribute like that Mamba mentality to that one thing. But this is a bizarre one, because he's got a teammate in Jaylen Brown that when this goes south, if it does, and they run into a better team in the NBA Finals, he's got to get the blame. This is not a Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant situation. Jason Tatum is so much better than Jaylen Brown.
Is he?
Yes.
Okay.
So much better.
Because Jaylen Brown has a $300 million contract,
Yeah,
does
but
he not?
that's not.
That's the NBA.
Yeah.
It's the next man.
But
That's
he's
right.
I
You've
think he's
argued
largely
that
getting a
Tatum
pass.
is Kevin Durant, and now you're sitting here saying he's not better than Jaylen Brown? Keep some inventory of your takes, man.
Sharpen the tools.
You're part of the problem.
You've heard me complain a lot in the last 3 years, Stugatz, about the pandemic just sort of exposing and speeding up some greed-related things that not only create like real problems between people who have money and people who don't, and the disparities of that have made me really feel for people who are struggling day to day. Because I believe on the happiness pie chart, if you're struggling with money every day or financial concerns, it can get really hard, no matter how spiritual you are, to be happy, because there's just fear around you at all times about not being able to afford things. And things are getting more and more expensive in a way that's alarming. That, you know, a cup of coffee on South Beach is $9 now. And, when I see what's happening with streaming and how aggressive and fast it is, when I tell you I didn't see this coming this way,
Right.
the streamers being competitive about the greed, when your leader is Netflix, which for a long time now has established itself as a company that's going to take all of its enormous profits worldwide and pour it right back into the business. Netflix now getting into the football game, if indeed Boomer Esiason's report is correct, that Netflix is going to get into the game, is making it so much faster than I thought. You're pricing out sports fans. You're really hurting sports fans who care about stuff by taking advantage of their addiction to teams and making it so they can get, the more you love sports, the harder it is for you to afford everywhere where your games are about to be, because cable is falling apart in front of you, and it's getting splintered so much by competitive greed, because Amazon and Apple and Max and Disney and Netflix, they all want the same things. They don't want to share the dollars with each other. They want to be the 1 or 2 winners so that they get all the dollars.
And if you're someone, I guess to your point, on a tight budget, you're going to have to make choices. If this Netflix deal goes through where they get the Christmas Day NFL games, you will have NFL games next season exclusively on CBS, Fox, ABC, NBC, ESPN, ESPN Plus, Peacock, Amazon, and Netflix.
I feel bad for sports fans. I feel this is going to get so much more expensive than cable. You're about to enter into a place where if you care about things, they're going to take advantage of your sports allegiances, your loyalties, and they're going to make it very hard for you to afford everything.
And you still need the cable because really big games are still going to be on over-the-top cable.
FBI.
And you can't access them on your streaming service without putting in your cable credentials. Presently, right now, and it's almost a principle thing, I am not subscribing to Netflix because I am doing the cost analysis on live streaming rights. Well, they brought on Monday Night Raw, which is a program you need to watch live if you're me. So in a couple of months, I'll be there. And then I officially have them all. Hell, I have like ones in South America.
And how much more is that than you were paying? Like
much more.
Are you still paying for cable?
I shudder to think like how much I am actually paying for my sports entertainment right now.
Yes.
I actually need to put it in calendars to unsubscribe when the season ends and then just resubscribe.
What happened to the days where I turned on my television and sports were on it? That's it. I didn't know what sports. I didn't know if it was going to be good sports, but there were sports. And it was free. What happened, Dano? I don't know why I'm throwing it to you.
Greed happened. Greed happened, and a whole lot of competitors to television happened. It's no longer 3 channels. It's more than 3 giants fighting over the fact that they know you're addicted to this. There is nothing like sports, Stugotz. Nope. It's not just because this part is unique by itself for the business of what it is that they're doing. The part that's unique is sports are one of the very, very few places where people still gather around at an appointed time. They are not making a menu item. They're not doing this on their own time. You are doing it at the time of sports. That's why all of these entities are trying to get into live sports. But even beyond that, because that by itself is special enough, the emotional allegiances that people have to teams and games are unlike anything else outside of maybe music in entertainment. Mm-hmm. It's unlike anything else. You do not get, you've heard me say this before, for everybody who says the most exciting day of your life was when your children were born, not many of you were jumping up and down the way you were when your team scored the touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like you, however happy you think you were.
I've never experienced that.
However happy
my wife and I jumped on the couch when Kyle Larson pulled ahead with 0.001. I swear.
You both jumped on the couch?
We both jumped on the couch, looked at each other, and it was on mute. We both jumped up. Sports are great. Love sports. I'm paying an arm and a leg for them.
It's interesting because I would have paid if I had to for Caitlin Clark's first game tonight, where I would have asked Mike for his password. I mean,
and you can't look. And the WNBA has its own version of the League Pass. Yeah. It's only $24.99. I suggest everybody go out there and support these ladies because you can watch every single game. You don't need any other app. You can watch the entire season.
For the entire season. It's
$24.99.
Yeah.
Everybody, come on, guys.
All right, so $24 more dollars gone though.
I'm in.
Sign up right now.
Okay.
Let's do it on air. Let's have a drive. Everybody sign up right
Whittingham.
now.
Hold on a second.
Yo, chicken time.
Text them.
I'm in. You said I'm in. It's a $24.99. Let's see the $24.99 here. Go ahead, put it on. Let's see. Give it to Joe. Let him keep the change.
Just give us your credit card number.
Go ahead.
Say your credit card number.
You works for Paramount.
He said, don't lie. You know this. What's your CVV? Show me you downloading an app. Mother's maiden name.
How do you have no shame?
I don't know.
It's just, we've rewarded it for too long is the problem. Like you're saying I'm in and you don't mean it.
Can I expense it?
Coming out of the final turn.
That means I'm in.
We're in together.
Well, you share the passwords. Share the passwords.
Wait, Dan, are you saying you're not in?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
You got to be an
Bad
ally
look,
here.
Dan.
Be careful.
Jeez,
So out
Louise.
of the final turn, Kyle Larson just decides, I'm going to bump this guy off of this straight away, and I'm going to win this. And they're just tire to tire, just pushing each other right to the finish
You
line.
jumped on the couch like Tom
Finish line.
Cruise and Oprah.
Yeah. Because they announced, I think it's Boucher. I probably mangled it. They announced him as the winner. Again, I was watching on mute. And my eyes like, no, Larson won that. And guess what? Tightest race in NASCAR Cup Series history. My eyes were right. I realized that Kyle Larson won that race by 1/100th of a second.
No, 1/1000th.
1/1.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in sports because I'm better.
Yeah,
Does it
you
get
go,
closer?
yeah.
I mean,
No, it's never been closer.
Right, yeah.
I
The
suppose
best
it
driver.
could be one
I'm in.
millionth, one
No, it can't. Oh, it's
10,000th of a
impossible.
second.
There's
That's
actually
crazy.
rules.
Stop it.
I have
You
to look it
sound
up.
crazy.
I have to look it up, but there are actually rules in place if it's an actual tie. NASCAR has rules. And keep in mind, this was in overtime.
But what do you mean the rules? The rules is, hey, it's a tie. What do you mean?
No, like in
What-
baseball, tie goes to the runner.
They have
I
like
mean,
tiebreakers, like who led more
What does that
laps.
mean?
No, there has to be a
That's
winner.
not the rule
There's
in
not,
NASCAR.
They
there's-
cut the
Runner wins
trophy
the
in
tie.
half. Yeah.
Well, if it's a tie in NASCAR, what are the rules? What do you mean there has to?
I
What,
think-
what is the second thing they go to? Coin flip?
I think it's like who led more laps. There's tie-breaking scenarios. It's
Russian
never,
roulette.
It's
Can
never
you
been needed.
find me the first tiebreaker? Because put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Lebitard Show. Do you know the first tiebreaker if a NASCAR race ends in a tie?
Yeah, they were 3 wide, man.
or a horse
Chase
race,
Elliott was
or
right
a
there.
horse race for that matter. I don't know the rule to that.
Well, horse racing is dead. Who cares?
This would have been an all-time finish. Can we throw up the still one more time? This would have been an all-time finish if the number 9 was the one that was on Kyle Larson's ass. And he's like not even being considered right there. They were going 3 wide in overtime. It was just an amazing event. I think NASCAR is also going behind a paywall.
It is most laps led during that race.
What about for horses? What about what is the first tie? What is the first tiebreaker for horses? Because laps is probably not going to be the tiebreaker there.
Just one lap, you know.
Okay, thank you, Stugotz.
I think the official thing is the driver who scored the highest position at the earliest point in the race will officially win the event.
Well, that's different than most laps.
It is indeed going to Amazon, NASCAR. Dale Jr. just signed.
Can we get to that tweet that we have of what it is that the Marlins got for Christian Yelich? The Marlins are in disarray. They're one of the worst teams
It's early.
in the league. Yeah, you keep mentioning that.
It's 162.
And what they got for Christian Yelich, do guys look at that? Currently, Lewis Brinson is playing in the Mexican League.
Doing well.
Playing with the
Puebla's on fire in that league.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should check it out.
You've got a guy playing college football. You got a
Well,
guy
he
who's
just committed.
the head baseball coach at Dwyer High School.
That's good.
I've bet on Puebla 15 straight games responsibly.
That is not good, Stugotz. They had Christian Yelich on a cheap contract. They had him signed long term, and they traded him. And one of the problems, I know recently some Marlins fans have been saying that the present administration doesn't know what it's doing, but what they were handed in a farm system, given what they gave away to get that farm system, was not nearly strong enough. And on top of the injuries that they have right now, they don't exactly have a young future to look forward to either.
Nightmare, and I'd love to get into all of that. Monte Harrison is playing college football. He's 28 years old, and he's going to Arkansas as a walk-on.
That's the lead here, folks.
He's going to dominate.
Do not bury him.
He's going to be amazing.
A 28-year-old former, he played it. He had a career.
Played in the major league.
He had
It's
a
not
major
fair.
league career.
No, I'm sorry.
And now he's going to Sam Pittman in Arkansas.
You can't be 28 playing against 19-year-olds. No.
Brandon Whedon?
I understand that the team
Chris
pays you.
Wenke?
You cannot believe that this guy who has not played football in a decade is going to come into an SEC team and dominate.
Have you seen Monte Harrison run with his shirt off?
Have you seen the SEC?
Have you seen that man run with his shirt off?
We've never.
Good argument
I like
right
that,
there.
yeah.
What have you seen?
WFAT.
You've
I mean,
cited
well done.
you've cited Winky and Brandon Whedon, and these we've seen it at the quarterback position. I don't think we've ever really seen it at an outside skill position where someone in their 28-year-old body can out-physical someone.
Let's ask the audience. Have you seen him run shirtless? What kind of analysis is that? Roy, where is your level of consternation? You are someone who is filled with a great deal of bluster and bravado. I generally believe you to be a liar when it comes to how much fear you will feel about the team in this market that you care about the most. You have not beaten the Boston Bruins this year. Last year, you beat them as an 8 seed. They were the best regular season team of all time.
3-0-2, Dano.
Tonight you play a game, and this would be, if I were Stugat, something that I would be calling a must-win, because I do not believe that you want to go 0-2 down against this team.
Yeah, the team that always blows leads. Ooh.
At home, you don't want to start 0-2 against a team that you're not that much better than.
Yes,
oh, wow.
You know what?
Whoa, wow.
I wasn't strong enough on you, and I didn't want to pull the Dan Le Batard's a hoser card, but you're a hoser. What is this talent? Pasta. Okay, fine. They have a bunch of guys that were on fourth lines on other team. You're going to hit me with Morgan Geekie? What are you doing? We're way more talented.
All I'm doing is that the last 2 years, the results, if you don't show me the roster and you only show me the results on the last 2 years, there's not a lot of difference between the results.
But last year was last year. Boston's worse, less talented. Bergeron retired. All right, Patrice Bergeron is not walking through that door. Florida's better. Reinhart got better. So, I understand points are points, but talent? There is a disparity
here. But you've lost 5 times to the team. In the last game you played, you lost 5-1.
Styles make fights, Dan Le Batard.
They're due.
But they're not more talented than Florida.
You lost 5-1 in the last game. Roy.
They are due, though. That was a good point.
Where
Thank you.
is your level of fear?
I'm even, Dan, as usual. Even.
Right.
All right, first of all, tonight we're going to have a better showing from Aaron Ekblad, because what happened in game 1 can't happen again. He was out there for – thank you. He was out there for 3 goals. 2 of them was his fault. One of them thanks to Bob, but 2 of them was his fault. Yeah. And that breakaway by Justin Brazeau, he gave chase on that breakaway. It was a sad sight to see. He could not catch up on that one. So, yeah, we need a better output from Aaron Ekblad. But we saw yesterday Sam Bennett practiced. He put full weight on that wrist, on the area that he got hurt in.
That's big, yeah.
Hopefully he gets to play today.
Dan, they're doing the thing where they know tonight's a big game, a must-win game, but they're giving the appearance that they're confident and not nervous. When you're overconfident, guess what you are? You're nervous. I mean, sorry, guys.
What?
They're nervous.
Right, Roy got a hockey jersey with Bellamy on the back, a Panthers jersey. I don't believe you. You an even lie. That's what you are.
What? An even lie? Wow, man.
I want to go back to what Stugat said. When you're overconfident, you're nervous?
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, yeah. You're selling your overconfidence, but you're really nervous deep down inside.
False bravado.
Yep.
It's like a sports car.
Yeah.
Clearly you have a small penis.
Yeah.
I said I was even. I'm not overconfident. I'm even.
Well, he's saying you're overconfident. He's describing you
Well, this
as
is
overconfident.
overconfident
even?
for Roy.
I think what everybody's worried about is I think Florida's more talented. We don't have to get into the weeds on that, but here's what a great equalizer is. A hot goalie in the playoffs.
Yep.
You can get goalied. And right now, everyone's kind of worried about that. In watching that game back, Florida didn't have great opportunities. I thought what Boston was exceptional at was their defense was just all over the front of the net. There was nothing clean getting to Swayman. And you had to be perfect with your shots. We missed some open nets. Chucky wishes that he had that one back. But here's what can make me nervous tonight, because even if they lose 2-0, but we see some improvements, because Paul Maurice got way too cute with the lines, I thought. There were defensive breakdowns from your forwards that you do not see. Barkov is a Selke finalist for a reason. And him and Tkachuk, even though you'd love to see them play on the same line together, there's a reason why you don't see it. Defensively, out of sorts.
Especially if Bennett ends up playing today. Tkachuk's probably going to be back on the second line and get back with him.
I think what they have to do before this Swayman thing becomes a thing, because Swayman's never played this much, is the Florida Panthers are really excellent at making lives miserable for opposing goalies. You got to throw bodies in front of him. You got to throw him off his game. You got to have Nick Cousins doing Nick Cousins things. You have to do what Tkachuk did last year to this very same Boston Bruins team. Get under their skin, get in front of that net, and play Panther hockey. That was totally absent in Game 1. Defensively, a mess. They were careless with the puck. Bob was careless, and he put Ekblad in a bad position. Then Ekblad had his worst game as a pro. Gustav Forsling, I don't think I've ever seen him play that bad. So now you've caught up. You got smacked in the face. You realize after that week off, we got healthy and we were waiting for this moment where you needed Sam Bennett. It changes everything for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, in game one, they were incredibly sloppy. A lot of turnovers, just too many turnovers. So they got to be better careful with the puck there.
Which do they have to be, better or careful?
Both.
Better and careful, because they were bad and not careful.
Better careful is what I have to be when I'm betting Mexican Puebla baseball.
Stugotz, the Marlins of Billy Gill have been quite the disaster so far this season.
It's early.
And they have traded away Luis Arraez, their most consistent player, a two-time batting champion. And I want to go back for a second, Billy, because over the course of covering this franchise, Marlins fans have at various points been very mad at me for being overly negative about what this franchise has done to its most loyal customers. And those loyal customers get mad at me when I talk about some of these playoff appearances being not sustainable or mirages, or they find me overly pessimistic on Marlins-related things. But the business of baseball in South Florida has betrayed and people who are deep sports fans who cared about baseball has killed their love of baseball. And we did an interview on ESPN with the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. I believe it's the most disastrous interview publicly that a commissioner has ever done. Let's play a clip of that, please, for the audience here as we go through some of what it is that is happening with the Marlins now. Rob, were you aware of Jeter's plan to trade players and slash payroll?
You know, it's interesting.
Yes or no, please?
Don't.
Yes or no, please?
You know, I'm happy to do yes or no's.
You can elaborate afterward. I just want to know if you were aware of that plan. Like did you approve a plan that had slash payroll again for South Florida?
We do not approve operating decisions by any ownership, new owners, current owners, or not. And as a result, the answer to that question is no. I'm not going to be deposed like this is some adversary thing.
The three other dismantlings you can make an argument for, the very rational baseball argument that you're making, but we were told when Miguel Cabrera was traded that when they got a new taxpayer stadium, it wouldn't happen anymore. You understand that, though, right?
Look, I think that is a broader statement of the commitment that was made in the stadium process. I don't think anybody ever committed that a particular player wasn't going to be traded in an effort to be competitive over the long haul.
Going to bring in David Sampson here, former Marlins team president, the host of Nothing Personal on the Le Batard and Friends Network.
Little game of yes or no would be commish.
Dude, that yes or no, please.
Oh, it was so good.
Woo! Awkward,
man.
So
you are good, Dan.
I don't know.
That was a moment.
That's like Kathy thundering away at Kendrick and Few Good Men. Oh my God.
That was the beginning of the end.
A few good men. I don't think it's just few good men.
Whatever.
Do you think that was the beginning of the end, or just like we were already at the beginning of the end, and that was like, hey, then some real conversation started happening? Like, these guys are not worth the headache. We don't know anything about podcasts.
I think the beginning of the end was just Skipper leaving.
Huh.
Yeah. It definitely gave that off.
Yeah,
I felt it. As it broke it,
I
was
think
like,
it started before that.
Well, but the
it started in 2004.
The baseball calling ESPN executives
Started when the ink dried.
All right, moving on. David, do you have a different take on what just happened with Arraez? Because is this the business as usual for the Marlins, or is it something else? Is there a way to defend this?
It's hard to imagine I'm going to defend the Marlins, but I really am here. Explain to me who amongst you believes the Marlins had a chance this year, even though it was just May 3rd. The thought was the team got lucky last year in one-run games. It all came together to make the playoffs. If they started off well, they would have hung on to see if they can have magic in a bottle twice. But when they started off the way they did, it really opened the door for them to make moves earlier. I just couldn't believe they didn't save the payroll. But that said, starting to move pieces makes a lot of sense.
You do understand, though, why it is the fan base would again feel hurt by the idea of I occasionally get attached to these guys and they're always leaving.
I understand that, but I also would say that there's a lot of turnover on a lot of different teams. I think the bigger complaint is that the winning windows have not been as long as other low revenue teams where you can maybe have a 2 to 4 year winning window, notwithstanding Tampa, whose window is like a decade long, but most it's a 2 to 4 year winning window. And it seems that the Marlins are not able to do that. Though I would argue last year was not a winning window. It just became a winning year. And the rebuild that Jeter was supposed to do, now Peter Bendix is going to do. And I think you're at the start of a new section of rebuild. The problem is you've got some pitchers who are inexpensive now and really good and hurt. And then they're going to start getting more expensive and you're not going to be in your window. And that means you've screwed up the timing.
I think the skeptical fan would look at it and argue, well, I don't think anyone expected them before last season to make the playoffs, right? They overachieved. They got lucky in certain instances, and they made the playoffs. However, with the exception of Sandy, you still had a lot of that core there, and then you had the opportunity. You went into the season knowing you're not going to have Sandy when spring training started, right? Then you had injuries and you lost more players, but prior to spring training, nothing was added. So you see this all kind of fell apart. You see that the pitching staff all got injured. They were decimated, and their solution was let's bring in the closer and have him become a starter. That was a disaster. But at the time, fans are saying, why didn't you add on to this core and try to make a run for it? And now the cynical skeptic would say, because this was the plan. Like, you set this up so if they fell apart early, you could have a fire sale that would be justified. And the fan base would say, look, they're not that good. They're going to lose 100 games. Who cares if they sell it off? And in reality, had you added in the offseason, you could have avoided it being this disastrous this early and being able to pull the plug so quickly.
I really hate to give Bruce Sherman any sort of runway here, but their expectation for revenue just has not happened in terms of gate revenue and in terms of broadcast revenue. Don't forget that TV deal, however bad it was that Jeter signed, it was a guaranteed stream of revenue over a course of years, and it just isn't going to materialize because of the bankruptcy of their network. And the second thing you have to realize is that there's a $10 million player coming that's being signed in 2026. You have a 3-year, $30 million deal with Giancarlo Stanton, and that money counts as payroll. So when you're looking at bringing in a long-term free agent, you have to think about where your payroll is going to be in 26 because it comes quickly.
The chairman of Bally's did a podcast, and he talked about the A's relocation. What's important there?
That the chairman, don't invest $1 of your money in Bally's. The chairman of Bally's did this podcast, and he was that's the number one takeaway.
No, I'm laughing because Jeremy just physically hid under the desk because he's doing a bunch of work for Bally's.
Where his paychecks come from.
I don't think he's in today.
What was it about sports that Bally's thought, like, I know we've been terrible at everything over the course of our lives here at Bally's HQ, but I really think regional sports, over-the-top cable television, is where we can turn this thing around. How is Bally's still around? They fail at gyms. They fail at hotels. They fail at TV.
Where's Jeremy?
How is this a thing?
Let's ask somebody who collects their cash.
Yeah, he's not here today.
It's like having Pan Am just operate your regional sports. How did we let this? Who could have seen this coming? Who?
I lost some college tuition when Eastern Airlines tried to make a comeback in Miami many years ago. And I thought, what a great idea. Eastern, they're going to make it back.
You fell for that?
I did.
It's Firefest. It's like, oh, hey, you guys want to do Firefest too? You guys seem to love the first one. Yeah, we'll get you out of jail. Throw another Firefest. Bally's is just moving from, it doesn't even matter what industry it is. They don't know what they are.
Let me just tell you.
Like, what are we doing? How is this allowed?
Here's why the interview was bad, Dan, to answer your question, is he was doing this podcast as the chairman, and he, first of all, it came out, and he let it slip that John Fisher, in his mind, was already doing Vegas when he still claimed he had not decided or did not have permission to be in Vegas. Notwithstanding that, which is likely true, still doesn't mean the team's going to Vegas. What he was claiming is that Bally's and the land they have in Vegas, it is going to be an outstanding investment for Bally's because they've got 9 acres for a baseball stadium out of 36, and there's going to be millions of people and tourists, and it's going to be a huge boon to the rest of our development, which, by the way, we're not able to finance now because we're doing projects in Chicago, et cetera. And by the way, we're not sure where the stadium's going to go on those 36 acres. But by the way, baseball is played in the summer when there aren't a lot of other things going on. It's the downtime in Vegas, according to him. Clearly, he's never been to Vegas. There is no downtime if you've ever been to the pool parties or everything else going on in Vegas. So he just came off as misinformed. And when you're looking to invest in a company or decide where sort of a company should be in the pantheon of buy, sell, or hold, he just did not exude the sort of confidence that I would have liked. And that's the point of earnings calls, as an example, which is what Disney had yesterday and what companies do quarterly. It's what Bally's was doing by doing this podcast, just sort of giving an indication of where they are. It's you're talking about your company, your vision, and you're trying to get people to buy into your vision. And boy, I was not buying in after that podcast.
Is there any world where the Vegas thing falls apart or the A's are just stuck in Sacramento for an extended period of time?
Yeah, Billy, there is. You know why?
course.
Because a huge part of the land is owned by Bally's. Because this is the only profit they see is we're just going to have this empty lot gain value. How do we keep giving Bally's more things? It's like having the Arena Football League do your taxes. It makes no sense.
Not that.
How are they still around? Show me where they've worked.
All right, Mike, settle down. It's not like having the Arena Football League do your taxes.
It is absolutely
You
that.
went too far.
It is. It's like having the Rock take out my appendix. It is.
Or run a football league?
It's like The Rock running a football league. That's exactly what it is. Or it's like The Rock being president.
Way to go, Billy.
More like that.
We were rolling, Billy.
I've got a way to get Jeremy.
Dandy Bear. Now supermarkets.
I've got a way to get Jeremy to stop hiding under the desk. Did I hear that on Nothing Personal you have said that Jimmy Butler will not play another game for the Miami Heat?
I did. That is an official wait to see from Nothing Personal. I watched the Pat Riley press conference at the end of the season. A, he reminded me of a grumpy old man, and it made me sad. But B, the things that he said about Jimmy, it's, you know, when you get older and you just say things that it's supposed to be your inside voice, but all of a sudden becomes your outside voice and your family tries to excuse you, and then it's sort of cute the way it is when a 2-year-old says something, but not a 15-year-old. Pat Riley talking about Jimmy Butler the way he did, telling him basically to shut up and try to dribble and play. I don't believe that Jimmy's going to take that well, and I believe that this was a public viewing of what's going on inside the Heat organization, where Jimmy's been a problem, Jeremy, and I don't know if you're willing to acknowledge this, but not knowing, is he going to play, is he going to practice, you're going to say that doesn't, there he goes. Boy, that's journalism for you, Dan.
That was a no.
No, he's hiding. He's hiding from me because he doesn't understand why he's catching your shrapnel here.
What do you think happens? What do you think happens with these regional sports networks? Do you think Bally's is like, well, let's just sell it to Sears?
Well, no, they're actually trying to sell it to Amazon.
Not Burdines?
Their plan, not Burdines.
They do already have deals in place with Amazon. The timetable on that is TBD, but in terms of when it'll roll out.
You know what kills deals? Time. And Bally's does not know how to operate a timetable. Do not trust them. If anyone can screw up.
The timeline is actually, you guys are wrong. The timeline is set by the bankruptcy court, and there's a hearing in June in order to approve a deal.
Bankruptcy court? Do they have a corner office in bankruptcy court?
Put it on the poll,
Is it
please.
Bally's bankruptcy court?
Does Bally's have a corner
Naming
office?
rights?
Does Bally's have a corner office in bankruptcy court? Jeremy, do you have any rebuttal for David Sampson? Is the first
on what?
He's the first on record
Bally's.
I've heard anywhere saying that Butler will not play another game as a member of the Heat.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is public negotiating on both sides, right? Jimmy's agent afterward came out and spoke specifically about the Heat need to make improvements. He talked about the numbers when Jimmy's on the court versus when he's off, but then he also said they're cut from the same cloth. All we want is for Jimmy to be paid what he's worth. And I think on the Heat side of it, the posturing that they're doing is, hey, look, man, you're setting the tone. Right? If you're going to take nights off, if you're going to sort of load manage, if you're not going to play through every bump and bruise as Pat Riley expected from players in the past, then some of the other players on the team are going to take the same note. And the Heat dealt with more starting lineups this year than anybody in the NBA that had a winning record. It's the most starting lineups they've ever had. And so it's not just Jimmy missing games. It's several guys missing games. But he's looking at the guy who he called the biggest needle mover on the team, not his captain, Bam Adebayo, but Jimmy Butler, the needle mover, and saying, hey, set the tone in this way. It's public posturing between both sides. I still think ultimately he's here playing basketball in Miami next year. But I think they'll consider anything. He did flatly say, no, we won't be trading Jimmy.
In fairness,
but that's what you say.
Yeah, he also may not trade Jimmy, and Jimmy still may never play another game for the Heat.
I also like
a handful.
It's like Circuit City having the rights to the Academy Awards. It never made sense.
It's just a name.
Quite the Freudian slip there when you said missing games and made it missing James, because what they do miss is LeBron James. It was a lot easier back then. What do you make, David, of the WNBA not only getting Disney Plus certified and having a deal here where you're going to get some support from one of the major money players, but also the team's flying now in a way that's vastly more professional because they're going to have chartered planes?
When I was back in my day, I was able to get on commercial planes and have NBA teams with me. The first time I ever visited a Major League Baseball player, they were sharing a room with another Major League Baseball player, and this was not that long ago. The NBA players were flying commercially through the 80s. 1987, I think, was the first time an NBA team flew charter, and that may have been the Pistons. So it's funny that this is what the players want. I understand they're saying security and they're saying comfort and convenience. I get it. It's $25 million they're going to spend before they get a sponsor, except I've done these sponsorship deals. You pay more to fly privately than the amount of the sponsor deal. It's a big expense. And at the end of the day, it's going to shorten the amount of time that players will have to make more money, meaning lengthen. When you're negotiating a collective bargaining agreement, you want money for your players. Well, the WNBA is going to say, we spent more money on your creature comforts. Now we can't increase the minimum salary, or we can't increase the maximum salary. So I think it's a mistake for the players to have wanted this so badly, because at the end of the day, it'll just come out of their pocket.
But why would it be a mistake? They need to fly better and take care of their bodies and have comforts and then negotiate something when the time comes to negotiate. But right now, they're getting something, and they're getting it without having yet negotiated it.
Oh, but you were right up until the end. So the fact that the WNBA is agreeing to do charter flights for the players, that is a part of a negotiation when it comes to CBAs. The fact that they did that, and there will be a dollar amount associated with it. And I love it when players want creature stuff. Baseball players fought for a chef in the clubhouse. Like, we give a crap.
I know
if there's a chef in the clubhouse.
You've told me that, but that's we're not collectively bargaining everything right now. This is a victory. This is a victory. You're saying it's not a victory?
Because, brother, you know how many hatred emails, tweets that go out to Brittany Griner? You know what they deal with going through these airports? These ladies are vilified. They all the time they're come at. They also attack. Brother, like, this is a big win for the WNBA no matter who you are. I don't give a damn if it costs $10 billion. Let's keep these ladies safe, because what they have to endure is already more than terrible.
What he's saying, though, I think, is that in the future collective bargaining, this may be you winning a battle, but but you're losing the war because later on they use this against you and say, well, we can't raise your salary that you want because that money's gone towards this instead.
That's the reality of bargaining. And Juju, of course, safety is what matters. And obviously, you do not deserve any sort of bad treatment, no matter where you are. But flying privately does not all of a sudden take away the opportunity for people to treat people badly. You can find them in the hotels. You can find them as you're getting into the hotel or as you're getting into the stadium or during the games. There are ways, as you know, big league players get impacted all the time by racism and hatred. It doesn't end because you fly privately.
But, David, what's going to happen here is they are cashing a lottery ticket early. These TV rights are coming, and so they get to mortgage some of that now because they get to live a better life now than the one they've lived because the TV money is about to pay for all of this.
Are you sure?
I mean,
where are you getting that from?
What do you think, David?
No, that's a fair question, though. Are you sure?
Look at the ratings numbers.
But spending it before you have it is a dangerous game.
No, not if you know you're going to get an amount of money that dwarfs the amount of money you have ever had in this realm because they're about to cash in. You can't tell me they're not about to cash in because the numbers that they're doing are crazy and the streaming services are going to fight for those numbers.
But David thought the Marlins were going to cash in on a TV deal, and then even the deal that they signed, now the company's gone bankrupt.
So, Dan,
which company? Which company would that be?
Circuit
the one
City.
That's always going bankrupt. How are they winning bids? How do they have money? What is this business plan?
It just hijacks the whole segment.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we were.
David, the Knicks.
Yes, sir.
The Knicks.
The
game tonight.
The Mecca. Brunson. Your thoughts?
If you think the Knicks aren't winning the series, you're not paying attention. Of course they're going to beat the Pacers. Then the NBA doesn't care if they beat the Celtics because one of them ends up in the finals, and that's just fine.
What's the movie you're reviewing, David?
Can we review? Has anyone in the room seen Unfrosted?
No, that's that's a Jerry Seinfeld thing, right?
Well, I'm going to have to carry the water on this. I love Jerry Seinfeld, the fact that he was directing a movie and it was going to be about the start of Pop-Tarts, and I love the frosted cinnamon, the brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I love the strawberry Pop-Tarts. I love the low-fat Pop-Tarts. I don't toast them. I eat them raw, put them on top of dry cereal with peanuts and wasabi peas and some sort of spicy mix.
Wait a minute, what?
You're ruining Pop-Tarts.
What is that?
What? That is a very common meal for me.
What? You can't even taste things. Why are you adding those things together? COVID took your taste. Like, what are you doing?
Nutrition.
Think about the crunch and the texture of the combination of wasabi peas.
That is the meal of a serial killer.
Did you do this when you could taste, or is this like a new thing?
No, this is an old thing. Okay. And so I still do it because it reminds me of days gone by.
Wasabi peas with Pop-Tarts? What kind of breakfast is that?
Dry cereal and peanuts and a other special kind of mix that you buy that has some those spicy little orange things. I can't remember what it's called. I think they call it, it's that. But then there's another one.
I know what the wasabi peas are.
That's
You're
crazy.
a maniac. You're
That's like
lunatic.
having a hotel chain become a lifestyle gym chain, becoming a regional sports chain.
Not going to let that go. Huh?
What is Unfrosted? How'd you feel about it? It was doo-doo?
It's a movie that Jerry Seinfeld directed, and it's terrible. And you would have expected some sort of humor that would have made me smile. You would have expected him to be good or the movie to be interesting because the story of the Pop-Tart could have been cool. Except I laughed out loud. A total, if your over-under was 0.5, take the under. There wasn't even a guffaw. I managed to smile, and it's only because there was a moment during the movie that I saw how much was left, and I had passed the halfway point, so I knew that I was close to the end. That was my only smile. It's a disappointing debut for Jerry. Skip it and just eat the Pop-Tart.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. If you've gone halfway through a movie, do you feel like you have to finish it? At Le Batard Show. Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. Thank you, David. Good talking to you.
I don't know how much of East Coast sports fans caught of that Dallas Stars Colorado Avalanche game last night. Many of you might have said, oh, this game's out of hand. It's 3-0 Stars. Let me tuck in. Well, what you missed was yet another overtime, and Colorado coming all the way back from a 3-0 deficit to win 4-3. There's so many stars, no pun intended, on that ice. Dallas is probably the deepest team in the league. This series has everything. It's had hot goaltenders coming into this series, really young quality players. There's star boys all over this ice. And if you're a nostalgic puckhead, you got Zach Parise and Joe Pavelski on the ice as well. But one thing was missing last night, and I'm pretty sure the Dallas Stars felt the impact. She wasn't there.
She wasn't?
She was not there. Oh. And you can't win those big games without her. If you know, you know. If you've watched a Dallas Stars game of import over the last few years, you know exactly who I'm talking about. She was not there.
Was there an explanation?
There never is, Dan. But when she's there, you know. Because the group chat is a buzzin'. Hell, Biz will tell you. That's one of my favorite parts when they have Dallas Stars games and she's there. Biz is like, she's there. He loves it. This is one of the great things about this sport. Her.
3 goals down, and that's your analysis coming
She wasn't
back?
there.
She wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's your
She
analysis.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
They lost. She wasn't there.
She wasn't there when they went down 3-0 either.
She wasn't
Or
there.
when they were up 3-0.
She wasn't
rather.
there. See, she was there for Game 7 against the Knights, to which, like, anytime she's there, you're hoping for a cutaway of the opposing head coach.
Right. And what happened when she was there? Game 7.
They won.
Yeah, they won.
They won. She was there. She wasn't there last night.
I want to get to some video here that I want to show you. I don't know how many of you in our audience have found yourself in fist fights. I have told you, Stugotz, that I retired from the fist fight game shortly after college. I remember the feeling of sitting in the street with a car pulling up and hitting its brakes so it would not hit me because I got my shirt pulled over my head and I'd lost a shoe and my ear was bleeding because to that point I wasn't somebody who had a lot of fear in bar fights, but I've told you the story of as soon as I squared up against this person, I saw that this person wasn't afraid, and once I registered that, I said to myself, oh, that means I'm the one who's afraid here because and then he was good at mixed martial arts, and then my shirt got pulled over my head, and I didn't do
you
any.
retired. I mean,
I retired.
Were you fighting Rob Ray?
No, it wasn't
Stu Grimson?
It was not a professional mixed martial artist, but it was somebody who knew how to fight clearly, and I was quite the amateur, and that's when it all ended, the bloody ear. But here you've got a strange setting for a fist fight to break out, and I don't think that we have audio on this. I think it's just B-roll, but it's at a Garfield movie, and what ends up happening is some guy wants to fight, and he doesn't realize that he has picked a fight with somebody who's a Spanish boxer. Who's a professional boxer, and so what ends up happening with
oh wow,
yeah, you square up you square up against somebody, and you see that they're on their toes, and it doesn't go well. And
there was a lot of real estate acquired the second he got into that stance.
Yes, and this goes about the way that you'd expect, except there's also Garfield on the screen in the background as a cartoon, and so it's a little bit weird to see the adults behaving that way in a movie theater. I'm assuming is filled with children.
I think that video was a couple days ago. Those guys must really hate Mondays.
Oh boy.
Weird to see a cat
All right,
fight at Garfield.
Oh, come on, man.
Get out.
Maybe he called him a pussy cat.
Get out. Get out.
From you?
Get out. 3 of them.
6 minutes.
3 of them.
How
Struck
many
out.
more of those did you have?
3 of them.
That was it?
That was it. It was all of them. I got one.
Okay.
I see the disgust on Juju's face. I second it. I don't know what can be the longest penalty administered to him.
10-minute major.
I don't understand
show misconduct.
why he has chosen bad jokes as the lane that hasn't been taken by other sports takers, dad jokes and bad jokes, but yet another bad investment by you Bally's. And it's why why you have a corner office in bankruptcy court. Because you've decided to get into the bad joke business.
No, that's exclusive to us. He seems to save the other stuff for Valley.
Oh, he doesn't do that elsewhere?
No,
he's a pro there.
He doesn't do I don't we have not had. Cody takes some delight in that, but Cody also provides the balance of some good ones.
Occasionally, yes.
But he just fired off. They kept getting worse. Here's what I need to tell the audience about some of the things happening around here that make things difficult. Does anyone listening to this hear that it sounds like I'm in a subway station? That there seems to have been trains going on here, and it's just building construction. But the entire show, I have felt a small jackhammering in my ear. And so, as if that's not annoying enough, to have Jeremy then hit me with not one, but 3 bad Garfield jokes.
Well, for those that are unfamiliar, we're at the Elser, and the Elser took us on at a time where we were without a home, and they moved us into a building that was still ongoing construction, and they're still improving this hotel. They're working on restaurants and whatnot. And
did you know they were putting in a roller coaster?
I don't. This is a very bizarre sensation because it sounds a lot like my morning commute. I don't know if there's some sandblasting going on, and I don't think it's being picked up by the microphones, thankfully, but we have really persevered.
No, it's a battering. If look, there are any number of reasons that you can complain about the show these days, but today, what I am telling you is I have felt like I'm in a rollicking subway car. The sound that has been in my ear for 2 straight hours feels like a moving train.
Yeah, it even goes like the sound that when it gets like staccato when you're approaching a stop. That you're not actually stopping at and you just roll by one. There's a little staccato sound, and those in New York know what I'm talking about.
John Staccato.
Go sit with him.
See ya.
Get out of here. Unbelievable. That's the path. You're going to follow that blazed path. Stugatz listeners of this show are going to be delighted on Friday if you are a longtime listener of this show with who's appearing on South Beach Sessions. I want to show you here. This is a visual joke that they have used to promote this week's South Beach Session. And I'm guessing you have not seen it yet because when you leave here, you tend to not know a single thing that's happening around anyone's life around here. So let's go.
The article where he had to be told and informed by the reporter saying, when you're not there, they have a lower third that says without Stugatz.
News to me.
Stugatz is consistently coming in here and saying, I wasn't told about this and that and this and that because he doesn't know how to use Slack. Like he's not participating.
I don't want to use Slack. Too many channels, too many things going on.
I know, but it's the way people communicate around here, and you keep
how about
saying,
pick up the phone?
Oh, because that works.
I will say this. If Stugatz gets you on the phone, you won't get off. Like, Stugatz answers his phone. The problem is getting him off the phone.
I'm a big phone guy. I like direct conversation. I want to hear the words come out of your mouth. I want to hear your response to the words coming out of my mouth. That's the way people communication. That's how.
Me 3. That's how I am, too.
Thank you.
What are you laughing about?
Oh, I'm sorry. The entire conversation is ridiculous, man. I'm sorry.
He spends so much time complaining that no one tells him anything when no one else has to be told because we're all communicating in the same way except for him. He refuses to learn. But here is the reveal on who's going to be joining us on Friday on South Beach Sessions. I'm flipping through some channels in my car, some Sirius satellite channels, and I've arrived at Real Jazz.
Ooh.
Is he always in your car?
Yeah, that's where he's been. People have been asking, where's he been for years? And I've just been chauffeuring him around everywhere. Kenny G is going to be making an appearance on Friday. It's a long conversation, and I'm delighted in having it because I got to ask him everything. Longtime friend of the show. It is good to have him back. Somebody else who has spent a great deal of time around our show is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, who has had a fascinating life for a number of reasons, including he was struck by lightning. And the last time I talked about him, he said simply that he'd had a heart attack in his last match a few months ago that he just played through on a heart attack.
Hockey player.
Yeah, I mean, he's
16-time world champ. You just power through.
You just power through a heart attack, and I don't actually doubt him when he says it. I'm not.
Why would you?
Well, because it seems like it would be pretty hard to wrestle with a heart attack.
And if you watch that match, it appeared to be very hard for him to wrestle. And if anyone's ever looked like they might have had a heart attack that they didn't know would happen,
yes,
it was him in that match.
Right. I mean, I told you earlier this week, no one has flirted with death and is still alive more than Ric Flair. I mean,
and I do.
He flirts with it like every other year.
Keith Richards is still kicking.
Wow.
Yeah, there is Keith Richards. Keith, all right.
I'm playing well, I'm told.
Put it
Nikki Sixx
on the poll at Le Batard Show. Who are you more surprised to still have alive? Ric Flair, Keith Richards, or Nikki Sixx?
It's got to be Richards, man.
I think most people are going to pick Richards, but again,
if you've died though, are you eliminated from this competition because that Nikki Sixx is done then?
Yeah, he's died and come back, but do we have any proof that Keith Richards has survived a heart attack during a wrestling match?
I don't know. Yeah. Nikki Sixx might be having a heart attack right now. I'm actually seeing him tomorrow.
Where?
In Daytona.
Really?
Yeah, I go to Welcome to Rockville every year. I love this music festival. It's not a lot of music that you would necessarily maybe think of me being associated with, but I love it. It's a great festival in the middle in Daytona Motor Speedway.
Who else is playing?
Limp Bizkit.
Wow.
Which the last time I went to attempt to see. I actually saw Limp Bizkit once with Lebo, and I had an unbelievable time at that concert because that's the kind of stuff that Lebo would want. And he's like, "Yeah, let's just go see Limp Bizkit."
I mean, their energy had to be great. Did you see them at the height of Limp Bizkit?
No. I've seen Limp Bizkit at the height of Limp Bizkit, and yeah, it's. But what's really cool is they've had this resurgence, and it was totally organic. Maybe there was nostalgia. It's hidden at the right moment. Their videos went viral from the Woodstock documentary, and they're getting really young kids at their shows right now. And maybe their sound kind of it aged poorly, and it's come out on the other side. It's kind of like when Benny Blanco talks about his attractiveness. He's like, I think I'm so ugly that I'm attractive now. Maybe that's what's going on with Limp Bizkit. But yeah, Limp Bizkit's going to be there. Foo Fighters, or as Christopher Walken calls them, Foo Fighters. Queens of the Stone Age, one of my favorite bands. Slipknot, another band that you might not think I love, but I love them. Judas Priest. So excited to see Judas Priest.
That's going to be an interesting crowd, Mike, in Daytona.
Jelly Roll is going to be there.
Juju, are you disgusted by everything you're hearing right now? Trying not to judge the music.
I'm trying to be inclusive. I'm trying to listen to my brother Mike.
Tech Nine is going to be there. Insane Clown Posse. It's just a weird, wonderful mess. It's like Bally's sports business plan of music festival.
All over the place?
It's just all over the place.
Do you think the people listening to this know that Christopher Walken is a classically trained dancer, that he's an exceptional dancer?
Well, the Fatboy Slim music video.
Yes, but I'm asking, since it's so long ago.
Yeah, Weapon of Choice is a bit of a dated reference.
I'm wondering if the audience knows. It's not just that video. That's where I discovered it, but there are a number of places where you can see Christopher Walken dance and dance well, and it's confusing to me every time I see it.
I saw him dance in King of New York. He's a pretty good dancer.
He's a classically trained dancer.
You're pretty good.
Thank you he danced throughout a music video. Thank you for telling us that you think he's pretty good. But
did you see King of New York?
He's classically trained dancer who made a music video for Fatboy Slim that is only him dancing.
Yeah. You were talking about Ric Flair and this video. So a weird thing happened over the weekend where Ric Flair.
Was this in Gainesville?
This was in Gainesville because he had family graduating. So he took to Instagram and Twitter and he posted like this huge takeout of this Italian restaurant called Paisanos. And he mentioned that he got into an argument with a manager there.
Well, let's show the tweet. We've got video as well, but the tweet says, I spent $1,500. First of all, before we get to Paisanos SFP.
I mean, he comes out of the gate so hot in this tweet. It scrolled across my timeline, and I was like 5 words in. I was in.
Okay,
you got your hooks in me.
He had you at $1,500.
I spent $1,500 at Paisanos SFP to be disrespected. Keep in mind, it's weird. This tweet, it's not all caps, but every first letter of every word is capitalized. I spent $1,500 at Paisanos to be disrespected more than I ever have in my entire life. After taking 20 pictures with customers and staff, I was asked to leave because of an issue I had with the kitchen manager taking too long in the bathroom. I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to enjoy a relaxing time in Gainesville at a nice restaurant to never visit this place. Woo!
Stuck the landing.
5 O's on that woo.
Always. Trademark. It has to have 5 O's. But then, like, people started digging into this, and, like, Rick could have had this experience and this altercation at this bar, and nobody would have. Maybe it doesn't really get out, but, you know, like Rambo, First Blood. And
exactly.
So the reports start coming out. People start asking the restaurant what actually happened here. They have their account, so it becomes a he said. Now, Ric Flair is stuck to his story, but I will tell you, his story starts to become undone by the closed captioning in this video because it is not keeping up with him.
Yeah, good. Well, I didn't do it wrong, except spend money and put this place over and bring my family and friends here. That is bad for you.
Why would it be bad for me?
Well, watch social media tomorrow. What's your name, nut job? Nicholas what? Nicholas
Pop.
Don't ever talk.
You don't have to call me like that.
You don't have to do this to me. You're humiliating me and my family.
I'm not humiliating you.
I didn't do one thing wrong. I walked into the bathroom.
And you cussed on my kitchen manager.
Oh, you're a kid high cost. Really? What world do you live in? No, ma'am, I'm going to give you $1,000 tip just to say to him, kiss my ass. If you walk outside here,
You don't have to be disrespectful to me, so we're being.
I know. You're disrespecting me.
How am I disrespectful?
Telling me to leave.
I'm not telling you to leave, but just telling you that you're cut off.
Oh, I'm cut off because I'm drunk? Really?
Yes, sir.
This guy and I are so cool. She and I are cool. And along comes Jim.
You don't have to call me like that.
Closed caption, having a difficult time.
I'll say it again. You're a
I think he meant to say dip, not Egyptian.
Oh, I'm leaving. Trust me. I won't come back again.
Thank God.
Come outside here and talk to me like a man.
I'm not going to do that because I'm on the clock.
You push it. You're on the clock.
And then another guy at the bar steps up to him. It's an embarrassing look. But here's the thing about Nature Boy, and I'm not excusing this behavior. Do you remember the Jason Statham film Crank?
Yep.
In order to stay alive, his heart rate has to be at a certain level the entire time.
Yeah.
To the point that there was actually a scene in the movie where Jason Statham uses a defibrillator on himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where Nate is at this point.
It was a heady play.
The party has to keep going because if it doesn't and it stops, he might stop.
Put it on the poll, please, at Lebitard Show. Should Ric Flair walk into the afternoon bar with a defibrillator?
Well, he's got a pacemaker. Let's say.
But nothing will break a man than when that man has to go to the bathroom and he's waiting in line. You could have the best time at that restaurant, but the second you're waiting in line to go to the bathroom and you really have to go, that great time becomes a bad time.
Well, you know how this show maybe missed an angle when talking about Ben Affleck at the roast? There's an angle here about taking too long in the bathroom where if you've done some social media sleuthing, you understand what part of one side is and what his side is.
I think I'd tell the guy to kiss Ric Flair's ass for $1,000 tip.
I'd do it for $500.
I'd do it for $1,000 and I'd give the other person, a piece of that, right? And then Ric Flair goes away and
I've done it for free.
We're all the richer.
I have a number of things that I found to be interesting about this because he was being cut off and he does sound like he's drunk, but he also sounds like he had a heart attack in his last wrestling match, and he also sounds like he was once hit by lightning.
Yeah, he does have like a slurry drawl.
But he's being cut off by the bar, and the tweet said something about, he said, after having an issue with this phrasing here, leave because of an issue I had with the kitchen manager taking too long in the bathroom. That creates for me more questions than it answers.
Yeah, well, like you don't have to dig too far to see the answers. But again, like, nature's going to nature. The people are trying to embarrass Nate with this video.
Right.
I mean, he even uses wrestling lingo. He's like, I could have put this place over.
He doesn't care. He's
I'm
skirted death
putting
like
you
12
over,
times.
man.
Listen here, paisanos. I could have put you over.
How do you think a fight would have gone had the person taken him up on the
That's a
offer and
good
gone
question.
out
He
to
would have ran up the turnbuckle, flipped over, thinking that he can actually do a high-risk maneuver from the top rope. Where I think he's only landed it twice, and then he would have been grabbed by the pelvis and the shoulders, and he would have been like, "Oh no, 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 no!" and then slammed from the top rope. Why does he keep doing that? It's like Bally's thinking that they can try their hand in a new business. They're literally Ric Flair running to the top rope, thinking that he can land a frog splash.
It ends with him cutting his forehead with a razor blade and the figure 4 leg lock by the kitchen. We are about to go deep inside of the intimacies of Stan Van Gundy and a rumpled bed behind him. That is a freshly slept-in bed behind him. We are getting into his life deeply in order to get the freshest of basketball analysis. We'll get to it in a second, but first, Mike Ryan has a very important journalistic correction because you know we pride ourselves on accuracy around here, even though Stugotz said yesterday that horse racing is dead after they got their best rating since 1989.
Yeah, it's dead.
Dan, I don't get it wrong often, but when I do, I need to be urgent and decisive with my correction. And guys, I had it wrong. She was there.
Oh.
Yeah, this tweet comes from Sean Joseph. Natalie Gavreau, at SexyNatG. And again, in the interest of journalism, that handle is at SexyNatG, was back for game 1 for the second round. In fact, I saw a video of her happily singing along with System of a Down's Chop Suey.
So it seems like next game she needs to not be there.
Let's not get too crazy.
Why'd you miss it? Let's get to Stan Van Gundy.
Let's not get
shall
too
we?
crazy.
I need to get to Stan Van Gundy.
They lost.
Pete DeBoer is elite. I mean, tunnel vision.
We need to bring in Stan Van Gundy and get the freshest of basketball analysis. Even
at
though
SexyNatG was that
the
handle.
games is that Stan's
One or two
is that
T's.
Stan's Twitter handle at SexySVG.
That's it. That sounds about right. Yes.
Yes. It is nice to see you, Stan. It is always nice to see you. You have told us that you would be shocked if anyone other than the Celtics won the championship. I believe that I have not seen a lot of teams in my lifetime that do it this way, Stan, where they just, over the course of the game, grind the lead from 8 to 12 to 15 to 19 to 25 to 33 with no comebacks, like where they just bury you in we're more talented than you are.
Well, that's exactly what it is in the East, and I think we'll just see more and more of that now. Since I have said that about them being the overwhelming favorites, I still think they're the favorites, but we can't ignore what Minnesota and Oklahoma City are doing. I mean, 5 dominant games by each of them, playing both ends of the floor. So the NBA Finals could set up being great.
What do you make of the way the league has been overtaken by the new blood, Stan? Because this is a different time. We are not used to young teams going deep into the playoffs. We are not used to the idea that a Minnesota or an OKC can do something like this without suffering a great deal. There isn't, in the history of basketball, those teams have to do some losing before they get to the finals.
Yeah, they're just really good. And I think in the case of both of those teams, you know, they've also got great poise. Look, Oklahoma City's the youngest team in this and have been all year. And I've said to people all year, like, when you watch them, forget about their birth certificates. When you watch them, what is it that says young to you? Is it that, you know, well, they get a little wild at times? Nope, you don't see that. Is it that they don't commit at the defensive end? Nope, you don't see that. Do they lose their composure when, like, calls go against them and things? Nope, that doesn't happen. They're probably the most poised team in the league. So I've sort of laughed all year at the people who just think, well, this team's too young. Nothing about them other than their birth certificates says that they're young. They don't play like a young team. And Minnesota either, though Minnesota's not quite as young. I mean, they've got Conley and Gobert, Towns. Those guys have all been around. They're just young on the scene as a team, but they're not a young team. Yeah, those teams have been tremendous. And what we're seeing is a lot of star power being laid to waste by these teams that are on the rise.
Well, then does most of the credit go to Coach Dagenalt? Because, I mean, the composure, the length, the scoring. This is exactly what a pro wants. I mean, what a pro needs.
There you go. Very good there, Mike. You need to sing that, though. You need to sing it.
What a pro
Not just say
I don't get the
it.
reference. I don't get the reference. I don't.
You want to sing it for us, Stan? Can you sing
Do
it?
you
No,
hear
I
the
do not
commercial?
want to sing it for you.
Do you
No, I
hear
do
the
not.
commercial when you're on the broadcast? Are you aware of how often they're playing this?
Well, I know it's on there a lot, yes.
Yeah, but it's not in your headsets like when
No,
you're on a game.
No.
I have grown to really dislike Shane Gillis-Alexander and Chet Holmgren.
Why?
Because of the commercial?
Yes,
Really?
yeah, no, I don't. How could anyone root for these teams? I know you just said why you would root for them, but this is a national nightmare. It's an international nightmare. And make it make sense, this commercial's playing twice as much during hockey games.
Well, yes, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But we do cross-promote. Both of the networks cross-promote because we both have hockey and basketball. So, yeah, that's how it
They have to make another commercial where they poke fun at themselves. Because there's a prevailing theory that because it's the market of Oklahoma City, that's the only way that you can talk people into doing this rather embarrassing, overexposed commercial. The next AT&T commercial that they do needs to be them singing this and people running away from them, or just poke fun at themselves for doing this to us, because it is quite honestly the worst thing going on television, and I include Newsmax.
Oh, no, I don't know about that now. I don't know about that.
Are you okay with the idea that Rudy Gobert is a Hall of Famer?
I would think that by the standards of who we've already put in, I don't think there's any question he's a Hall of Famer. I have said for years, and not aimed at any one player specifically, that I don't think our standards are high enough. I think the Hall of Fame should be for the absolute best of the best. I had someone tell me a few years back, gave me a criteria that made a lot of sense to me. If you couldn't be the best player on a 50-win team, you don't belong in the Hall of Fame. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So you might be the second or third best player on a team, but if you were our best player, would we still be really good? That should be a standard for Hall of Famers. There shouldn't be a role player Hall of Fame or just a defensive player's Hall of Fame. Rudy's a great defender. If Rudy Gobert were your best player, you're not winning 50 games.
I do like the idea of a role player Hall of Fame, though. And we'll get back to that, Stan. But Rudy Gobert, if you're coaching the Timberwolves and he comes to you and he says, hey, I need to be there. My wife is having a child. I need to miss Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinals. What is your response to that?
Yeah, that's his decision. I don't have a problem with that. That's his decision. I mean, look, there's very few things, if any, that are more important in your life than the birth of a child. And so, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever.
Stan, can you give me a top 5 role player Hall of Fame? I'd like to do that right now. First ballot role player Hall of Famers right now.
Oh, wow.
I'd like to do it with you.
You know what?
Big Shot Bob?
Well, I probably couldn't. I mean, off the top of my head, though, there's a lot of great role players.
But Bob Horry, he just picked one. Like
Yes.
you have to. That's got to be
His
a
role was to hit big shots.
Yeah,
Yes,
and he won many championships doing that. How many did he win?
Yeah,
6?
no, that's
Yes.
a good one. I mean, I think to me, you would look at this whole group of defenders and rebounders, right? You'd look at Rodman and Ben Wallace and
Wow.
But they're in the actual
Gobert.
Hall of Fame. They're in the actual.
Well, they have no
Hall-
business being in the Hall of
Those
Fame, is what
people-
Stan is saying.
If those people are,
Oh,
in
but
the,
I'm saying I didn't say that, Stugatz, as usual.
you did
putting
say
words
that.
in
You
my
kinda
did
mouth.
said
say
it.
that.
You kinda said it, Stan.
Everyone heard that,
you
right?
kinda
Everyone.
said
Stan said no. Gobert
Oh, listen,
and
I
Ben
did
Wallace
not
and
say
Rodman have no business being in the Hall of Fame. That's what you said.
Listen, the Hall of Fame
Scott
is
Brooks is an
set their
idiot.
standards, whatever. But I just think we don't necessarily confine it to the absolute best of the best. I mean, we've got some guys in there that were never first team All-NBA. You know, like you should be a multiple All-NBA guy. Like you have to have been a top 10 player in your era, I would think at some time. I don't know. I just look at it differently. And then the bigger problem we have in the NBA is we don't have an NBA Hall of Fame. You know, we're combined with international leagues and women's basketball and college basketball. And so it's a little bit convoluted. And I love the Hall of Fame. I mean, I love going through there. I haven't been in a few years. I think the last time was maybe 7 years ago, but it's a great place and it celebrates the game. But as far as the criteria getting in, it gets pretty tough.
Lawrence Funderburk.
Excellent.
I don't think Lawrence Funderburk would be in the Role Player Hall of Fame.
Just wanted to say Lawrence Funderburk.
and I, you know, in the name Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's
the
a
name Hall
different
of Fame.
game. Wait a
Wow.
minute. That's a total. Let's
Wow.
play that game. That's a God Sham God. Is God Sham God in the name?
Yes.
In the
Oh,
name.
God
Hall of
Sham
Fame.
God's in the playoffs right now too. He's an assistant coach with the Dallas Mavericks.
Who else is in the name Hall of Fame? Because this
Well,
is.
see, I'm not. This
That's
is way
great.
out of my area of expertise. But
You brought it up.
It's one of those things that
well,
know
I
when
brought
you
it
see
up when Mike brought up Lawrence Funderburk. But
How about world? How
not
about
like I'm sitting here with a list of names.
World Be Free?
Well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
MVP of the all-name team right there.
Detlef Schrempf.
World
Schrempf.
Well, what was it? World Be Free, and then we had Meta World Peace. You know,
Detlef Schrempf.
Detlef Schrempf might actually be
I
a
think he is.
role-playing Hall of Famer.
I think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Donald Foyle.
Wow, man.
Wow, you're good.
You made me happy with that one.
Is Stan? I did it.
Look at you.
I seem to tickle
No,
you, but I
keep doing
couldn't
it.
tickle Stan though. Look at Stan. Stan unimpressed by a Donald
no,
Foyle.
I'm not unimpressed.
Unimpressed.
Didn't you
You
coach
are.
a Donald Foyle?
I coached Donald Foyle. So
Lucky you.
I love Donald.
Fat Lever.
That's a good name.
Oh yeah, Fat Lever,
That's
good
a
one.
good name. It is.
That's a good one.
absolutely.
Speedy Claxton.
I don't think Speedy was
Well,
actually his name,
the problem
was
with
it?
Speedy Claxton
What are you
is it was a
talking about?
great name. The guy never played. I mean, he was always hurt.
I think it was his nickname. Wasn't Speedy his nickname?
Yeah, but he went by Speedy.
I
No
thought-
one
what
called
is
him
your
He
name?
did go
Nick.
by Speedy.
I don't think anyone called him Nick, if that even is his first
Did
name.
he go by Speedy, Stan? Did somebody? I don't know.
No
This guy-
one would have ever called me that. No.
Yeah, this guy never made it, but Scooney Penn.
You think Fat was his name? I mean,
I coached Scooney in summer league, and I remember him as a high school player in Massachusetts. Played for a good friend of mine. Loved Scooney.
Look at me, Louie. Pick that name up off the
All
ground
right,
and hand it to
hold
me.
on a second.
Scooney Penn.
Speedy's first name is Craig.
Thank you, Stugotz. I appreciate that. Let's go out into the other room here where Jeremy Taché, I don't know if you can see this, Stan. I hope that you can. Jeremy has a scenario where you see what's happening with Jimmy Butler. You see what's happening with Pat Riley. Pat Riley telling him if he's not playing, you need to shut your mouth. Let's go out.
This looks good.
Yeah, let's go out to Jeremy here, who's got the plan for the Miami Heat going forward. This is how they acquired Donovan Mitchell. Let's go ahead and show Stan how this works, Jeremy. Go ahead and take us through this.
This will be good.
Well, it's time to just set up a narrative, Dan, because we have some similarities happening here between the departure of LeBron James from Cleveland and Donovan Mitchell. We're talking about a player in year 7 of their career, year 7 playing in Cleveland. Well, what's going to happen at the end of that season? They go out sad at the hands of an overwhelming Boston Celtics team. For LeBron, it was the big 3. Now it's Tatum and company for Donovan Mitchell. That Celtics team, by the way, beating the Heat in the first round of the playoffs. But let's go back to the draft classes of each of these players. LeBron James with the Cavaliers. Who was his best friend in the league? Fellow draft classmate Dwayne Wade, drafted by the Miami Heat. Donovan Mitchell, best friend in the league? Bam Adebayo from the same draft class. So what happens? They become besties over their years in the league. This is happening 14 years apart. And what ultimately happens with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade? Well, you head to Miami, where they form a big 3 with Chris Bosh, who was already going to be there. And here, a future big 3 in Miami of Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler.
Excellent detective work. Stan, your thoughts there on Jeremy doing that and also everything that happened with the Heat this week where Pat Riley tells Jimmy Butler, if you're not playing, you should keep your mouth shut.
Bison Dele.
Well,
oh, wow.
First of all, on Jeremy's thing, that's all well and good, but LeBron James was a free agent. So that's sort of, and Donovan Mitchell is not.
He was
that
traded.
Sort of changes.
LeBron James was traded to the Miami Heat.
Depleted us of
He
draft
was,
assets
but
and
because he was a
trade
free
capital.
agent. So
don't ruin it. He did all these. He did this whole thing, this string theory thing.
He did a great job there. The second thing I would say is, let's not look. Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, really good players, but let's please not put them in the class of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Please, I mean, let's stop right there. And what Pat Riley said is, what Pat Riley said. Like, that Jimmy shouldn't be talking if he's not playing, and they need him to play more games. I mean, both things seem rather obvious to me.
I loved what you said about this front office it has to stop putting Eric Spoelstra in this position where he has to be some sort of miracle worker every postseason. They need to help him out. They've failed countless summers now in acquiring not just a major piece, but pieces that can really help. And they're going to other teams in the Eastern Conference. They got to do something because what he's working with, no slight against him because it's been amazing, is not enough.
No, it's not enough. And if it weren't for him, I think there would be a whole different narrative surrounding the Miami Heat. But Eric's able to always get the most out of his team and get the most out of individual players. And so they end up very competitive at the end of the year. Now, this year, it got to the point with Butler being out in the playoffs where they didn't have enough to even be competitive as an 8 seed. But I think the bigger point, which everyone that I've read has hit on, is if they had had guys more available in the regular season, they wouldn't have been an 8th seed. And then maybe they could be doing what New York is doing despite all the injuries and things because they weren't in quite as tough a matchup. So, the regular season has got to become more important, not to Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. I think it's always been important to them. It's got to become more important to the players. They've got to be more available, and they've got to put themselves in better position heading into the playoffs.
Thurl Bailey.
Oh, that's a good one.
They don't make Thurls anymore.
Pearl Washington.
They don't. Really?
What is Thurl even short for?
Tiago Splitter.
Is it short for anything?
Yuri Blob.
Oh, that's a good one.
Pooh Richardson.
Is it
Yuri or Uwe?
It's Uwe Blob.
Oh, it's Uwe.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not Yuri Blob.
Pooh Richardson.
Nemanja Bjelica.
It's a W in the middle.
Stan, I am nervous about my New York Knicks. They are up 1-0 against Indiana, but it seems like because they're so limited off the bench, it seems like Jalen Brunson has to score between 40 and 50 every single night, and they're all playing the 5 starters 40-plus minutes every single night. I am nervous. Soothe me.
Well, they don't all play 40-plus minutes. Hartenstein only played 36 minutes the other night. For the New York Knicks, that's called load management, 36 minutes. Josh Hart, we were laughing on the broadcast. That's his 3rd playoff game the other night where he's played every minute. One of them was an overtime game where he played 53 minutes. So he played 48 minutes in game 1 against Indiana and did our between quarters interview, which is normally for someone that's out of the game. But in New York, if you're limiting yourself to interviewing players that are not going to be in the game, we'd be talking to Charlie Brown or something, So, yeah, these guys play a lot of minutes. But here's the thing. If you look at what they've done in the playoffs and people keep waiting for them to wear down, they've been at their best and even at their most energetic in fourth quarters. I mean, if you look at their 7 playoff games, they have 44 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. They have 51 in the other 3 quarters of those 7 games combined. So this team gets stronger as the game goes on. Obviously, highly conditioned, tough guys with a lot of resolve. And, this team's going to be tough to beat. But Indiana's very good. I mean, it's not like New York blew them out, and I don't know that New York has enough to blow a lot of teams out. The games are going to be close. New York's been good in those situations. I think it'll be a good series.
Vitaly Potemko.
Oh, wow.
Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes said that Halliburton is not a number one, that Siakam is not a number one, that Indiana does not have a number one.
I think that's fair. And I think they've done a very good job with that roster. But that's fair. I think that, and their line is, I heard it the other day, we're a true team, and they are trying to do it as a group. They're pretty balanced in the number of shots. Nobody uses their bench more than they do or gets more production out of it. They got 46 points out of that bench the other night. TJ McConnell had 18. Obi Toppin had 12. I mean, so they're playing 9 guys, and they're going to try to beat the Stars with 9 guys. But I would agree with Matt and Steven on that. There's not a number one guy, and Halliburton's not built that way. Like, he's the leading assist guy in the league, but he's not a guy who's going to try to take over a game. Now, he's got to do a lot more than he did the other night. You can't come in as a 20-point per game scorer and shoot 6 shots in a game where New York's not double teaming you. They're not blitzing pick and rolls. You can't do what he did the other night. I give Dante DiVincenzo a lot of credit defensively, but Halliburton's going to have to get more aggressive.
Thabo Cephalosha.
Kelly Tripucka.
Oh, wow.
Those are Kiki Vandeweghe.
Oh, look at you. Lucy Hawkins.
You guys are good.
Stan, I got to make fun of you. I really do. Because I say that you're one of the greatest broadcasters doing it these days. And when I asked you that Pat Riley, Jimmy Butler question, your response was, what Pat Riley said is what Pat Riley said. That is analysis,
awesome.
My friend. It's just
I got it.
He's
right.
It is, but for reasons that you guys would certainly know.
But I don't want to let you
get into I don't want to get into a lot of Miami Heat, Pat Riley stuff.
All right, so let's do Denver, Minnesota.
After
then.
I say Omer Ashik.
That's a good one. Let's do.
Remember his Adam's apple was massive.
Yes.
Massive. He would get you 10 boards if you gave him the minutes.
His Adam's apple was a small forward. Put it on the poll at Levitard Show. Was Omar Asik's Adam apple a small forward, an undersized small forward? Minnesota and Denver, Stan. Is there anything more important in that series than Jamal Murray's hurt?
Well, yeah, I think there is. I think Anthony Edwards' emergence as a true star in this league and Minnesota's overwhelming defense, their overall size and activity. I give them a lot of credit. I give Tim Connolly a lot of credit putting that roster together. Not a lot of people believed in today's NBA in bringing 2 centers and trying to play them together. It has worked. I give Chris Finch a ton of credit for making a rather unconventional lineup work. They've just done a tremendous job. But I think that defense and then the emergence of Anthony Edwards as a true star, and then he's got a really good number 2 guy in Karl Anthony Towns. That is a very, very good team.
Andrew DeClercq.
Wow.
Who matches up best with Boston?
Well, it's going to be one of those 2 teams. Nobody in the East does.
Cherokee Parks.
Nobody in the East matches up with them. But in the West, those 2 teams can both match up. I mean, and would be interesting series. Those teams I thought were really good to begin with, but I didn't think anybody could dominate the Western Conference playoffs, even in the early rounds, the way those 2 teams have to this point.
Gar Hurd.
Let's play for Stan Van Gundy. Tex Winter. Let's play for Stan Van Gundy the sound of David Sampson saying what it is that he likes to have for breakfast. I think Stan's going to find this fairly shocking.
And I love the frosted cinnamon, the brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I love the strawberry Pop-Tarts. I love the low-fat Pop-Tarts. I don't toast them. I eat them raw, put them on top of dry cereal with peanuts and wasabi peas and some sort of spicy mix.
Wait a minute, what?
What is he talking about?
Exactly.
Like okay, on the Pop-Tarts, not the brown sugar ones, the strawberry, very, very good. Don't toast them. I'm good with that. But then he's putting them on top of stuff. Wasabi on top. Like, what's going on?
Eduardo Nahara.
Oh, Tony Massenberg.
Eduardo Nahara is a really good one, Mike. And the reason is, too, that I like that is a lot of the ones we're throwing in there, the first names are actually nicknames. You know, I think we should eliminate the nicknames and go with real names. And Eduardo Nahara, as is Omer Ashik. You know, we should stick to their
Milt Palacio.
Oh, that's good. Palacio.
Milt Palacio.
But Fat Lever's real name is Lafayette Lever. I actually think that's a better name. It's an upgrade.
It is. I like that. I like
Mario Moon.
I like Peja Stojakovic.
Oh, that is too. That's a headlining name. You can't do that.
I think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's too good. Peja's too good.
Oh, okay.
Rashad Nesterovich.
Oh, there you go.
Now you're playing the game.
I hear it. I still hear it in Stephen A's voice.
Now, you can't be in 2 Hall of Fames. Is that what you're saying? You can't be in the Hall of Fame, the Role Player Hall of Fame, and the Name Hall of Fame. You can only be in one of them.
For the game that we're playing, you can't be a star player.
Right.
You can't.
You just can't.
Okay. I got another Role Player Hall of Fame, Tony Kukoc.
Really?
Yeah, that's a good one.
He might be in the actual Hall of Fame, though.
Yeah, I think he's in the actual Hall of Fame. Too good.
Well, again, he wouldn't be in an NBA Hall of Fame, but because of what he did internationally, he gets in the Naismith Hall of Fame.
I think a better guy from those teams is Ron Harper, Stan. Role player.
No, not as good as Tony Kukoc.
Okay, sorry.
Eduardo, he's right, though. It's got a matador's flourish, a Hispanic. The first name, like Nahara nails the dismount, but the Eduardo, you don't get a lot of you don't get a lot of Eduardos in basketball. Stan, it's nice seeing you. He is doing it better than anybody for TBS and TNT. Follow all playoff basketball through Stan Van Gundy. It is nice to see that smile under your mustache, Stan. Good seeing you.
All right, good seeing you guys.
I don't think Dan and Sue caught Juju saying, "I just came."
Oh my God, it was the funniest thing in the entire show.
What was the name that made you come? That was the name where he just goes, "I just came."
It was the rat-a-tat of it all. I was like, "Whoa, the nipples and the ass."
Did Zydrunas Ilgauskas get on the board?
He's too good.
He's too good.
Too good.
He might be in the actual Hall of Fame.
No, the name. I'm talking about the name. I'm not talking about the Role Player Hall of Fame or the actual Hall of Fame. I'm just talking about the name Hall of Fame. This is something, and it's a weird thing, but I know our audience knows this and can do this with their friends. This is one of the strange love languages in sports where friends can get together and just try and top each other with names from their childhood past that make them smile from sports.
Kevin Duckworth.
Yeah, there's this whole meme where there's a couple laying in bed and the woman's like, he's probably thinking about other girls. I'm thinking about J.J. Stokes.
It's this show's wheelhouse, man. Joe Barry Carroll.
I'm thinking Detlef Shrimp.
It is the way that one works. I failed to get to something with Stan that I meant to. Can you guys put up on the screen, please?
Legadou Nane, please. That's what we want.
The name of and the announcement of Darvin Ham being sent away by the Los Angeles Lakers, Stugotz. I thought to myself, when I saw this news delivered this way, where it's Darvin Ham's very sad face and the word dismissed, I'm like, dismissed is worse than fired. Fired is bad.
Right.
Fired is bad, but all capital letters dismissed feels worse to me as a way of announcing, Darvin Ham, you've not merely been fired, you've been dismissed. Dismissed.
You have to wave your hand.
It feels more disrespectful.
Right.
Fired sounds like cold, transaction. Fired is bad. No one wants to be fired, but you're dismissed. Like I don't respect you enough to keep you here and merely fire you. I'm dismissing you.
They may as well put in big bold letters, scram.
You can leave now.
You can't trust BR with a graphic, though. Like, If Braxton Berrios signs somewhere, they'll be like, who can stop these guys?
I do feel like they could. What's the next step beyond dismiss? GTFO? Like, what is next that I could put in capital letters? That's
It's PTFO, by the way. Fine.
Sent packing? Give him the boot?
Did you go for a Pablo Torre finds out joke that didn't make a lot of sense?
Just a good teammate there, you know?
He tried.
Just trying to promote the show, man,
Exactly
for a good
right.
friend, Pablo.
Exactly.
Hey, Darvin Ham, kick rocks.
That's a good one.
Go sit in the penalty box.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy doesn't get enough promotion. I was giving a promotion.
Haywood Workman.
Pound sand.
Worst attempt at a joke on a show that has Jeremy on it.
I mean, how do you do PTFO?
After
and then
it was like a
find
joke,
me and it doesn't
lesser
even make
joke
sense.
after a good joke. You got a good, nice little pop for it.
It didn't even. When he gets later and later in the show, I think, and he gets more and more tired, especially with these drives. Like, he's not totally here. There's like 9% of his brain that's not functioning correctly by the time that we crawl toward the finish line with him. Like, that made no sense what he just did.
Yeah, he came up with that all on his own.
I didn't feed it to him,
I
which is
got
a
the
major
joke.
surprise.
Yeah.
I mean,
the 9% of his brain.
Billy has not made eye contact.
I feel like we're hitting a lull here, and I think I have the solution to
What's
this.
that, Billy?
Ronnie Turnoff.
Ronnie Turnoff is good.
Yeah, could he catch a pass? Could Brody Turioff ever catch a pass?
Guys, guess what time it is?
Against
the spread. That's what it is. Against the Spread is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Love Giraffe Kings.
Who's
So
going
who's
first?
I'll start today. Dan, big one on the ice today. Panthers, Bruins. And I know if you've been listening to this show, you've heard all about what DraftKings has to offer, but you've also heard hubbub about Sam Bennett coming back and the difference that this is going to make in the Panthers-Bruins games today. But as Stugotz has mentioned, this year, head-to-head, the Bruins are 3-0-2 against the Panthers. And I think that trend continues tonight. I'm going to take the Bruins plus 1.5. I don't know that they're going to win the game outright, but I don't think they're going to lose by 2 to the Panthers.
We've got some bad news from the morning skate.
What?
Sam Bennett was not seen out on the ice.
Oh, I feel even more confident now. I'm going to take the Bruins plus 1.5 against the spread.
Why are you going against Roy and Mike on this one? Why are you being someone who is betting against the local team in a game the local team has to have so that we can have a fun weekend of watching playoff hockey?
Well, because I care about the consumer and I care about their wallets. And I'm thinking with my mind and not with my heart. And that's why I'm advising you to go with the Bruins plus 1.5 against the spread. Next.
All right, I'll go next. All right, so, I'm going with the Oilers and Canucks game tonight. The last 5 games with the Canucks games, the last 5 Canucks games, the underdog has won the last 5 games when the Canucks are playing. And the Canucks are currently plus 1.5. So I am going with the Canucks tonight against the spread.
I'm going to travel to the NHL as well. You got to dig it. My brother Billy Gill said he thinks the Bruins are going to go plus 1.5, you say? Mm-hmm. I think opposite. I think your Florida Panthers will succeed. I got 7 syllables for you. Matthew Tkachuk, Sergei Bobrovsky, goddammit. I'm taking the Panthers.
Yeah.
The logistics, semantics, don't worry about it.
Against the spread, yeah.
Pay no attention to the syllable man behind the curtain.
Yeah, 7 syllables.
That GD, was that in the 7th?
There's not logistics. It's not semantics. You took God's name in vain.
Yeah.
Bobrovsky by himself took you over the count.
Bob. Yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Panthers against the spread. Yeah. Duh.
Are you of the opinion, I just want to be clear on what happened here, that if you wave your hands around and say, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, that we're going to let it go that you used about 40 syllables where you said 7 for some reason?
Zagaki, Dano.
Thank you, Juju. Is that it, or do we have
I've got
anybody
one.
else?
Yeah, a little daytime baseball for you if you want to increase that bankroll before the hockey kicks up. The Miami Marlins are playing the LA Dodgers. On principle alone, I'm going LA Dodgers. Again.
What are you doing? You're just taking a giant favorite?
Yeah, it's minus 120, I think, thereabouts, for minus 1.5. No. For the run line.
On the mound
yeah.
For the Marlins. Ryan Weathers.
But baseball could happen.
Baseball happened last week.
It can happen, but, I mean, what are we doing? What are you
Against
doing?
the spread!
That's right. That's what we're doing.
Silly question.
Oh, yeah.
What was Stugatz doing?
I don't know. I after I mentioned Omar Ashik, I could see him drifting off and just visualizing that Adam's apple. I think he just had problems getting back on the train that is still buzzing over our heads.
PTFO. I mean,
Billy, what are you smiling about?
I just, just happy.
That was 8 syllables. I have no idea who Roy picked. I mean,
I said the Canucks.
No, it was confusing. It was one time. No, you definitely said the Canucks several times, almost too many.
Yeah.
You did get tangled up there.
Well, I didn't know we were doing against the spreads either.
Okay, that's good planning and organization and just the general competence that I've come to associate with this show. You didn't know we were doing against the spread, so you gave that no thought, and now you're asking people
I gave you the reason why.
Hold on a
As
second.
confusing as it was.
Whoa, you mentioned the Canucks, and if you want to see the Canucks, Billy Gill, you know what you do? You download the Game Time app. Woo! You create an account. You use code Dan for $20 off your first purchase. The terms apply, okay, folks? Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. You can see where your seat is, and you can see what your view of the ice is going to be. If you somehow find another price out there that is lower, Game Time will give that price to you plus more. Great customer service. It's what I use all the time. That is promo code DAN. Game Time.
Sharif Abdul-Rauf.
Yeah.
Wanted to bring on the man who has ruined basketball, Stugatz.
Yep.
Kirk Goldsberry is better at analytics than just about anyone in the NBA media. He was a VP of research for the Spurs. He's the chief analytics consultant for USA Basketball. He's got a new book come out. It came out this week. It's called Hoop Atlas, Mapping the Remarkable Transformation of the Modern NBA. And as I mentioned, he is single-handedly responsible for ruining the NBA and drowning it in numbers and data and a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of people are interested in and a lot of people are not interested in. Stugatz chief among them. He is against learning.
Yep.
He is against new information, and the whole sport has changed. Kirk, thank you for joining us. We have a number of different questions. You write a lot about the corner three, so let's talk about one of Stugatz's favorite players, Al Horford. He's taken more than half of his shots from three in these playoffs. How much has the sport changed since Ray Allen shot in Game 6 11 years ago?
The game has changed a lot. Al Horford epitomizes those changes in a way, Dan. He's a perfect person to bring up. And in my book, Hoop Atlas, there's actually one of the more stunning graphs is Al Horford's three-point activity looks like a Bitcoin line graph, man. In a good when Bitcoin's doing well, I should say. It looks like nothing for the first 10 years of his career. In fact, I think he made only like 10 threes in his first 5 or 6 years in the NBA, and now it's virtually what he does. And to me, that sort of epitomizes what's happened to his position group and what happened to the NBA. Al Horford deserves credit for extending his career like Brooke Lopez by becoming great at shooting threes, especially corner threes.
We have a couple of charts here of LeBron's shot selection then and now, and this is how players age. He's the oldest player in the league. How has LeBron changed into more of a perimeter player as the three-pointer has come to dominate the league? Let's put these charts up there so that Kirk can explain this and, again, do more to ruin the NBA than anyone has.
Jesus, Dan. All right. So here's what happened. LeBron comes into a league in 2003. Michael has just left, and everybody still wants to be like Mike and shoot a ton of mid-range. LeBron is one of them. His first career bucket is in Sacramento in 2003, and it's a mid-ranger on the right side. That's like his favorite shot, and you can see that on that chart, that he loved that right side mid-range. Fast forward 20 years, and he is virtually a different player, and he deserves a lot of credit. Like Al Horford, extending his career. And one of the reasons he's been able to do that is because he has adopted this 3-point shot. And if you would have told people in Miami that this guy would be shooting 40-some% on 6 or 7 attempts a game when he got to Miami, they would have told you he's crazy. But that's exactly what he's done, Dan. And like Al Horford, epitomizes the trends that have sort of taken place during his career. And the other crazy stat about this, he is not a bystander. He leads the NBA in history in 3-point assists and has assisted more corner threes than any other player in the game. So those of you who think this is just about Steph Curry and this 3-point revolution, as a passer, LeBron has assisted more threes than Stephen Curry has ever made. So he's helped ruin basketball too.
As somebody, just an accomplice, though, you are you're
he pores over your data.
You're the chief criminal. That's correct. You're the problem here, not LeBron James. You worked for the Spurs, so Wembanyama, give us your boldest, most extreme take on what it is you imagine he's going to become.
I think he's going to become the best player in the NBA. That's the boldest take I'll make, but it's going to be different. It's going to look different. He's going to be the best defensive player in the NBA. He might already be there. I'm not mad that Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year this week, but I think Wembanyama is going to hang his hat on that award for years to come. I think he'll just be so disruptive, blocking 5 shots a game on an average basis. But then on offense, nobody's going to be able to guard him. Once he gets a little bit stronger and starts to get a better feel for the game and the game slows down for him, he's going to be a problem on offense too. He'll score 40 points a night sometimes. He'll grab 20 rebounds and he'll block 7 or 8 shots. It's going to be crazy, sort of like Olajuwon sort of stat lines for the modern NBA. And he has a potential to be the best player in the world and win multiple championships in his career for sure.
We were talking last week, and I was saying that Tom Brady is the standard for people not knowing anything about how to project who's going to be good in all of sports. But I couldn't come up with a close second place to what Jokic has done, where nobody thought he was going to be anything, and then he becomes something that is more dominant than anyone.
Jalen Brunson?
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, but Jalen Brunson's not an MVP, and Jalen Brunson isn't a multiple-time MVP, and Jalen Brunson doesn't shoot with the efficiencies of Jokic, although he does, for his size, do more. But is Jalen Brunson second place to you when you think of people just totally swinging and missing on somebody who you think is a backup in the second round, and he's better than everybody?
Brunson's a great name. It's more topical than the one I'll throw out, which is Manu Ginobili. He's a big part of my book, but he was picked 57th in the NBA in the late 90s, didn't even make it to the league until 2003. And I think out of 140-some players, Dan, that have played at least 1,000 games, he has the highest winning percentage in NBA history. He has 4 championships. But to me, sort of symbolizes how NBA scouts overlooked international players in the late 90s and early 2000s. But moving it up to today, Jokic is obviously the flagship one, and Brunson is a great other name. But some of these other Knicks players are on that list too. I mean, scouting the NFL is very hard. We miss on quarterbacks in the NFL, no matter how you sort of build draft models. Predicting future success for quarterbacks is very difficult. Basketball, you can look at LeBron James or Victor Wembanyama or Anthony Edwards and be like, that dude's going to be very good in the NBA, and be pretty confident about that.
When Stugat says Brunson, though, I could say, well, look at him. Just look at him. Physically, look at what he's doing. Okay, that's why they overlooked him, because he's small and
yes.
I get it.
But he's crafty, Dan. I mean, this is ridiculous. He's averaging 40 a game in the playoffs.
I'm well aware of how well he's doing, but look at him. I can say, okay, he's too small with those giants. When I see Jokic moving through like a cement mixer and not bothered by everything, I really don't understand how everyone misses on that. Like how at that size, experts can't see. I just don't get it. I'm really mystified by it, because I don't have a comp for someone that size. Never mind playing that way, because there's not a comp for someone playing that way at that size. But everyone's swinging and missing on someone that size.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and I think, you know, he has now scored 210 points in his last 5 games. And, you know, you got to sort of zoom out and be like, the last person to do that over a 5-game playoff stretch was Michael Jordan in 1993. And it's staggering what he's been able to do. at his size, and it's a credit to him and his footwork. But you want to talk about people who missed on him. The whole Dallas Mavericks organization missed on him. It's just a few years ago they let him walk. Now he's certainly a max player. I'm not saying he's an MVP. We already talked about that. But, geez, he's scoring 40. He's scoring so much. If he scores 40 tonight, nobody will be surprised. And that is wild, given where he came from, his draft status, and even his time in Dallas. And that organization kind of wishes they had him still, I'm sure.
Do you have a theory? Because I haven't gotten a good answer yet on this, and I think you might be a good answer on this. I know that Jalen Brunson and Jimmy Butler are not Michael Jordan. I'm assuming that the reason that they are able to score more than Michael Jordan is because of the way that offense has changed. I'm not assuming that those two players are reincarnations of Jimmy Butler. Can you explain this? I'm sorry, of Michael Jordan. Can you explain it to me? Can you explain to me what's happening there that the statistics I'm getting from these two guys shouldn't be where they are? Not these two.
Yeah, there are two things. It's the three-point era. So, especially with Jalen, a lot of his offense comes from the three-point line. And if you just transported his three-point stats back to Jordan's era, he would stick out like a Larry Bird's dream. I mean, he is using the three-point shot at a normal level for superstars in 2024, but that is padding his stats. I'm not calling him a stat pattern, by the way. And then the second thing, Dan, is this heliocentric movement that has taken over the NBA in the 2020s, which is NBA offenses have never been this concentrated around the best players, perimeter players specifically, in the NBA's history. We're commonly seeing usage rates in the mid-30s for players like Brunson, who leads the playoffs in usage rate. For those out, that's a little bit nerdy. That's a fancy way of saying a ball hog. But NBA teams are happy to just rinse and repeat actions with their best players in ways that we haven't seen from guards in a long time. And that explains why we're seeing such wild box score numbers from players like Jalen Brunson.
Kirk, the comparisons of Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan, a bit premature, right? Ridiculous.
Don't compare anybody to Michael for a variety of reasons. But, Anthony Edwards is 22. And even when Michael was 22, he wasn't scoring like this and just dominating. So Anthony Edwards is his own player. He deserves to be treated as such. And in the business we're in, everybody wants to compare everybody to everything. We've already done it 3 times in this conversation. So I can see why it happens. Anthony Edwards is an absolute phenom. And I just can't believe he's 22, Stu Gatz.
Let's play for Kirk some sound from Austin Rivers that caught fire yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. Listen to this.
I could take 30 players right now in the NBA and throw them in the NFL. You cannot take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA.
Whoa. It's because you're only allowed 5 on the court. Let's all relax.
It's because you get a break every play. All you got to do is catch the ball and run north or south.
Listen, our sport.
It ain't complex.
Your thoughts there, Kirk.
That's sports radio.
That is great sports radio. Stu Gat's got the producers here. I tend to agree with Austin Rivers, but I have a more of a respectful tone. I think the NBA has a lot of the best athletes in pro sports, and if they devoted their lives to it, they could thrive in the NFL for sure. And I think we have a few examples from history that can prove it.
Stanislav Medvedenko. Who do you have for MVP this year, brother? You have Jokic, SV, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or the other guy?
Please say the other guy.
Definitely the other guy. Regular season or playoffs. The way this Denver-Minnesota season is going, I reserve the right to make sure that everybody in the audience knows the NBA MVP award is a regular season award. And I feel like Nikola Jokic was the most valuable player this year. But Anthony Edwards and Jalen Brunson certainly look like the most valuable players of the postseason so far.
It wasn't too long ago that the NBA was reputed to be an innovator, not afraid to change the game in ways that would make the game a little bit more appealing. Does the NBA need to change the game some because you ruined it?
Yeah, it does, Michael. It's time to move the three-point line, especially the corner three, which is the most boring shot. It's the smartest shot in basketball, but you know what else? It's boring. Nobody wants to see PJ Tucker over there. Nobody wants to see Malik Beasley doing that. We want to see Anthony Edwards dunking, breaking guys down off the dribble. We want to see LeBron dunking. We want to see the best players making the best plays. And simply put, Michael, the corner three has become too easy for too many players. It's 1 in 10 shots in the NBA now. Nobody wants to see that number. And every time somebody shoots a corner three, it's something else that's not happening. So that shot shouldn't even exist. If you look at the basketball court, the corner three is 22 feet from the basket. Every other three-point angle is 24 feet or so, 23.75 to be precise. And it's time to get rid of the corner three, in my opinion, Michael, and open up the game to more athleticism. Try to breathe some life back into the mid-range where Michael Jordan and Dirk Nowitzki and Kobe Bryant all sort of made us swoon with that kind of game. That's absent now in large part because we're just hunting corner threes over and over again. So it is time. And every other league in the world, from the WNBA to women's college basketball to men's college basketball to FIBA, has moved their line back this century. The one that hasn't is the one with the best players. Tell me how that makes sense.
The book is available now, Hoop Atlas, Mapping the Remarkable Transformation of the Modern NBA. We thank you for your time, and we leave you with this video and photograph of the Jokic action figure. There it is, Stugotz. Are you enjoying the Jokic action figure? It is about time. He deserves his action figure. There he is, just laughing at everyone in the NBA for thinking he wasn't going to be any good, and then he's Wilt Chamberlain. Thank you, Kirk. We appreciate the time, sir.
Anytime, Dan. Thank you.
The New York Times is reporting that Robert Kennedy has told people that he has a dead worm in his brain. Dead worm in his brain.
Y'all get away with everything.
That wouldn't be the weirdest thing he's told people.
I did not know that you could have a dead worm in your brain. That a worm. Did you know? Put it on the poll, Juju, at your convenience at Le Batard Show. Did you know that a worm could climb into your brain, start eating, and then die? Is that a thing that people knew could possibly be so? I don't think that he'd make that up. Like, somebody told him that. I don't think that he would. I mean, maybe he made it up, but
Dr. Seuss told his ass that.
You think it died because what was going on in his brain was so toxic that it died of poisoning from all those
This
thoughts?
is why we're viewed as an echo chamber. You can't just keep it to the worm in the brain. That's not interesting enough. You got to go woke on me there.
Yeah, man, that's my job.
That's not your job. I thought you said your job. You keep telling me what your job is, and I feel like I should know what your job is.
Well, you probably. It would probably help all of us if any of us knew what my job was. I don't know what it is. I thought it was heat expert.
We could have just kept it at the dead worm in the brain. That was interesting enough. We didn't have to get your political commentary on top of that.
I thought this segment was just Juju and Dan.
So did I.
That's what I was told.
Don't do that to my brother. Look, my brother can
trying
sit
really
in.
hard.
You had a good diagram earlier. It was cute.
Thanks.
It was very well produced.
Juju, what were the highlights and lowlights of today's show?
I start with the lowlights because a lot of people are writing in about David Sampson and these wasabi peas, bro. Like, they are disgusted that he could bring that up into any kind of dinner plan. I like
wasabi peas by themselves. I've never put them with anything else. The only thing I've ever put wasabi on is sushi. I like wasabi. I have gotten the nose and brain sting that would awaken a dead worm if I had one in my brain, because I have felt that in my head. When you put that on the poll as well, Juju, please, at Le Batard Show, have you ever gotten the nostril brain heat of wasabi sort of disorienting you? What else did we get wrong?
They also says that Antonio Urbina, he says that the winning lotto ticket was sold at Publix, so Stugotz was wrong.
Wow. In Miami Shores, it was just, it was nearby here. There was a winning lotto ticket at Publix. That disappointed me. I didn't want it to be at a Publix. I want it to be at a small-time gas station
Cheapens
somewhere.
it. Yeah.
It does. It doesn't feel... It shouldn't be at the winning lotto ticket should not be at a place that has a lot of square footage. It has to be small square footage, and you got to be able to get plantains in a corner, and they have to give you a key at the front to use the bathroom because they don't want it open to everybody. It can't be a Publix.
Yep. Being Brave 4 says that, hey, the Le Batard Show is talking NASCAR for just a single minute today. It made my entire week. Salute to him.
I can't believe that Mike Ryan and his wife jumped up on a couch at the end of a NASCAR race, and we didn't get to that until Wednesday. How is that possible?
I'm not sure. The chickens might should have peeked their head out of it.
But I called him on it, and he insisted. Billy, you don't believe him either.
No, but you know.
Okay, very good. What else do we have, Juju?
That's pretty much all the complaints from today. Other than that,
that's
everyone
it.
Everyone
Wait a minute,
loves the
get
show
out
today.
of here! I don't believe that.
As
for
far
a
as
second.
the social media now, they might not be taking advantage of this post-game show. So if you're listening to this, hashtag post-game show, hashtag spliff notes of your notes from today's show, and we're gonna go through them every day.
I did not think there was enough Juju in the show today, and I did not think there was enough Billy Gill in the show today. I have those as my critiques for the show.
You have to tweet it at yourself, though.
Hashtag spliff notes.
Do you guys have any thoughts that we did not get to? Any important? I know that Billy is bothered by the fact that players throughout sports are flippant about getting fined.
Oh, yeah, we can get to that. You know what? Let's do a day-long tease and tease that to tomorrow.
Are you here tomorrow?
We'll find out.
TBD.
You're not here tomorrow.
If you join tomorrow, you'll know if I'm here
Billy,
tomorrow.
You're not here on Thursdays.
Well, we'll see. I'm predicting a Chris call-out day tomorrow.
Because he's just going to get drunk at the hockey game?
He was
Well
supposed
put.
to be here
I
today.
appreciate
I
your
didn't
thoughts.
say that. You said that. I didn't say that.
Juju, any basketball thoughts for me today? Because I really didn't. I didn't hear from you enough today. I wanted to hear from you more, and I felt like the basketball coverage. We got plenty of it, but not enough of it from you.
Yeah, bro. I love my Celtics, but they rely so much on these contested three-pointers that go in magically. The no. Okay, good shots. Like, that's all game with them. And like you said earlier, in the close game scenario, I think they haven't been battle-tested enough to where I can be fully confident in them in that, which the Knicks have been. Every game the Knicks have been in that close game scenario. So that may pose a problem if both of those teams can make it to the next round. But, yeah, man, I'm nervous for the Celtics for that reason.
I don't understand, Juju, why it is that you wouldn't have 100% confidence in what looks to me, what I keep saying, because of the offensive age that we're in and because of how they have battered the entirety of the league so consistently. I believe the Celtics team is better than the one of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. I believe that team, I've said before, they took more games to win the championship when they won the championship than any team ever had because their games were close. The series were close. It wasn't what the Celtics are doing. I don't have, off the top of my head, since the day of Michael Jordan, I can't remember swamping teams the way that they swamp them, where you're watching playoff games. And what do you mean the other team is going to be, from the first quarter on, they're just going to be trailing the whole time? And it's not just in the playoffs. I know they're playing lesser teams in an 8 seed and a 4 seed. They've done it to everybody all season, where they just hit you in the face with a fish all game.
Right now they're doing it to the Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat and your Cleveland Cavaliers. So I just think we should pump the brakes on the expectations for the Celtics.
But they did it all season, though. They did it to everybody.
But they shriveled in the playoffs, as we've seen multiple times. So that's the only hurdle that's left for my squad to pretty much clear, if you will. You feel me? Yeah. And also, moving over to the association last night, brother, those Oklahoma City Thunder, they play like a team. You getting buckets from Wiggins. You getting buckets from the other Williams. You getting buckets from the first Williams, like in late game situations. So I think that Oklahoma City team, bro, that's real scary right now.
Did you go back and count the number of syllables that you actually
There was
used?
9, goddammit.